Chapter 572. Qin Ye and Qin Yutong were about to cramp up from laughing. Even Yi Hua had a trace of a smile on his face. This Qin Ye's father is too funny. It seems that the last time when Baiji came over for the big meeting, because she met Qin Yutong like this, her entire person became inflated to the sky. Indeed, ever since Qin Huaxian met the Empress, he went around flaunting his glorious history, and the Empress especially gave him face. The people who were at the scene back then also felt a little bit, and adding on to Qin Huaxuan's words, they had no choice but to believe him. Thus, their attitude towards Qin Huaxian changed 180 degrees. What are you laughing at? I still have evidence here. Qin Huaxian said gravely. This youngster actually doesn't believe me. Evidence? Yi Hua and the others went into a daze for a moment. They were very curious about what evidence it was. Dad, let me take a look at the Empress that you are talking about. Qin Yutong asked, but her smile became even wider. Dad has changed. Qin Huaxian took out his phone and found a photo. Look, this is a photo of me and the Empress. A photo? Yi Hua and Qin Ye were very surprised. I don't remember taking a photo with the Empress that day. Could it be that the photo was taken privately? Donghuang Baiji doesn't seem to have mentioned it before, right? Qin Yutong took the photo over, and Yi Hua and Qin Ye looked over as well. In the photo, Donghuang Baiji could be seen standing leisurely, and Qin Huaxian was respectfully standing at the side. However, if one were to take a closer look, the Donghuang Baiji in the photo looked a bit strange, as if the photo was photoshopped. Qin Ye felt very helpless. My dad actually used this kind of photo to bluff me. In actuality, Qin Huaxian wasn't bluffing. He just felt that it was very glorious for him to have met the Empress, and thus he asked someone to Photoshop a photo to prove that he was someone who had met the Empress before. Yeah. Look at you, if you have even half of her elegance, your father will be at ease. Qin Huaxian sighed lightly. My daughter's appearance is on par with the Empress, but in terms of temperament, she is a bit inferior. After hearing that, Yi Hua immediately laughed. Well said. Qin Ye, did you hear that? Learn more from the Empress. Yi Hua patted on Qin Ye's shoulder and teased. Speaking of aura, Donghuang Baiji was indeed a notch higher than Qin Ye. Back then, the two women had also displayed their aura in front of Yi Hua. Donghuang Baiji's aura was very big, while Qin Ye's aura did not have that kind of aura. Qin Ye was that kind of gentle and beautiful type. Even if she had a straight face, it would not have that kind of strong effect. On the other hand, Donghuang Baiji was different. When Donghuang Baiji put on a straight face, she looked very scary. However, when Donghuang Baiji smiled, Donghuang Baiji seemed like a completely different person. Yi Hua had even secretly asked the Empress to put on a straight face, and then it felt really good. Qin Ye glared at Yi Hua petulantly. I have been using this matter to tease myself quite a bit. Yi Hua's attitude made Qin Huaxian a bit unhappy. I am teaching my daughter. What are you interrupting for? Little Yi, you have to change too. Ye is so outstanding, you have to become even more outstanding. Qin Ye felt great in her heart. This is what a father should be like. Yi Hua, did you hear that? You have to become even more outstanding. Qin Ye launched a counterattack, causing Yi Hua to be very displeased. Am I not outstanding? In this entire world, I am unable to find another man who is as outstanding as me. Yi Hua did not say anything. I'll just quietly listen to you two bragging. I, the Supreme Overlord, am not going to bother with you two today. Qin Huaxian let out a light sigh. Actually, it's also good if it's a bit more ordinary. It's better for us to not get involved in that kind of world too much. The competition is too serious, and I'm afraid that if I were to say it out, I'm afraid that I would scare you all. Yi Hua and the others did not say anything. All right, it's better for me to tell you two so that you two can be a bit more vigilant. Qin Huaxian was unable to contain himself. Do you think that if you don't say anything, I won't scare you too? Don't be so childish, all right? I heard that during this period of time, both the North and the South are not safe, especially the North where a lot of people have died. You two have to pay attention, don't get dragged into the matter. Qin Huaxian suddenly thought of something and asked gravely. Qin Ye Yutong, how did the two of you get dragged into the matter of those big shots? Last time, the Empress even asked me about this matter. The two of you better explain it to me clearly. Just what exactly happened that night? This matter had been bothering Qing Huaxian for a long time. Luckily, the Empress did not pursue the matter that night. Although it was a bit strange, it was also a good thing. If the Empress were to pursue the matter, Qing family would be in trouble. In actuality, it was useless to ask about it now. Yi Xiao was already dead, and his son and the medical saint were still standing at the side of the small road like a tree. Qing Yutong explained. Dad, that night, that medical saint song brought us to participate in the auction, but in the end he ran away by himself, causing Big Sister and I to be very embarrassed. He is truly shameless. And then, did you see anything else? Qing Huaxian questioned. Qing Yutong was a movie empress. Her acting skills were top-notch. Qing Yutong shook her head hesitantly. Qing Huaxian felt that it was true. My 2 daughters are so obedient, they don't even dare to kill a chicken. So why would they go and kill a person? This is too unreal. And this man, I reckon that he doesn't even dare to hold a knife. He is so weak. After finish asking this question, Zihan also began asking. You 2 have already given birth to your child, and you 2 have also gotten your marriage certificate. When do you 2 plan to hold the wedding? Wedding. If not for her mother mentioning it, Qinya would have almost forgotten that Yihua still owed her a wedding. Yihua had also completely forgotten about it. I indeed still owe Qinya a wedding. Qinya hugged onto her son and said a bit angrily, ask him. Everyone looked towards Yihua. This Qinya, she is definitely angry with me again. In actuality, Yihua wanted to give them an unprecedented wedding, and not this kind of ordinary and completely meaningless wedding. Right now, not only do I have to give Qinya's family an explanation, I also have to give Qinya an explanation. Rest assured, there will definitely be a wedding. Everyone nodded their heads. A man should take responsibility. After hearing that, Qinya was also very happy. As long as Yihua promised, he would definitely fulfill his promise in the future. Although it was no longer just a single person's wedding, Qinya was already relieved. For such a powerful man like Yihua, it was normal for him to have 2 women, but it was impossible for him to have 1 more. Following that, everyone chatted about their daily lives, and Yihua's attitude seemed to have been accepted. And what else could they do even if they didn't accept it? However, everyone's muzzle turned towards Qing Yutong. Yutong, your big sister already has a child now. When do you plan to settle your personal problem? As Qing Yutong's mother, Wang Muqing was also very anxious. However, Qing Yutong had an indifferent attitude and even said, it's fine, brother-in-law will help me look for one, he already promised me. In her heart, she was thinking, my butt is already brother-in-law's, who else am I going to look for? In this lifetime, I will just hug brother-in-law's thigh and not let go. Qing Huaxian had to dispel this idea of his daughters. What kind of people can the bar boss know? All of them are just some unimportant people. Chapter 573. No, I'm not going to go on a blind date. I'm going upstairs to sleep, bye-bye. After finished speaking, Qing Yutong ran upstairs. Wang Muqing let out a light sigh, feeling very helpless. Yeah, or properly persuade your sister. Don't always be like this. In a few years' time, she will be in her 30s. At that time, no one will want her anymore. Zihan said gravely. Qinya laughed lightly. With Yutong's looks, are you afraid that you won't be able to find her? Yihua, don't you think so? And that's right. Yihua nodded his head, feeling that there was a hidden meaning behind Qinya's words. Everyone helplessly shook their heads. Regarding Qing Yutong's personal problems, they were also having a headache. Our daughter is so beautiful. What if other people covet her beauty? Thinking about it, I really don't feel at ease. At 9 p.m., Yihua and Qinya returned to the room. Qinya was carrying her son with her back facing Yihua, and was currently feeding the child. Yihua took out a red packet, opened it and counted it. This family is quite generous. I quite like them. This is the first time I have seen a check inside a red packet. Interesting, as expected of a rich family. Just as Yihua was sighing with emotion, a small hand instantly snatched over the check. They are quite generous, they even gave you a big red packet. Qinya looked at the red packet with a smile, and even blinked her beautiful eyes at Yihua. The little fellow Yi Yan had eaten his fill and was sleeping peacefully. Yi Hua's brows wrinkled. What are you doing? Give it to me. This is mine. Humph, I'm not giving it to you. This man will become bad when he has money. Qingya mercilessly took away the check, not giving Yi Hua any private money. Yi Hua also mercilessly hugged onto Qingya's body. Where did you hear such crooked logic from? What? Only you are allowed to have crooked logic, but I am not allowed to have crooked logic, Qingya said. Her tone carried a hint of acting coquettishly, causing Yi Hua's heart to thump. This Qingya is truly becoming more and more enchanting. Every single action of hers is emitting out a different kind of charm. Today you promised me all kinds of positions, Yi Hua said lightly. He was already unable to hold himself back anymore. Qingya's face turned red. Our son is still asleep next time. Hee. I will not allow you to do it again. Yi Hua sneered, then carried Qingya and disappeared from the room, arriving at the bedroom on the second floor. Qingya hurriedly said, Our son is still on the bed, don't worry about him. No one can hurt our son. After saying that, she kissed him, appearing very greedy. It had been a very long time since Qingya and Yi Hua had gotten intimate with each other. The fire within the two's heart was instantly ignited, and the two of them fell onto the big bed, crazily enjoying the pleasure within. Only when it was 3 a.m. in the morning did the two of them return back to Qing family. Qingya was completely exhausted, to the point that she didn't even want to move her fingers. Yi Hua was still clearly very excited, and he was completely unable to fall asleep. Furthermore, he even had the feeling of wanting to continue. It was a pity that Qingya's battle power was not good enough. Should he seek out the Empress to resolve this matter? However, after thinking about it, he decided not to. It was already too late. Even if he went, the Empress would not allow it. It was impossible to communicate with a pregnant woman. Leaning on the bed, Yi Hua looked at his wife and son, and he was very satisfied with the current situation. If it wasn't for the fact that I have yet to take revenge, it would be good for me to continue living like this. Gradually, Yi Hua sunk into contemplation. Last year a lot of things happened, and the people in the cultivation world also suffered heavy losses. Of course, this was not my fault. It was all because of them killing each other, or maybe they were just asking for it. I just slightly provoked them, that's all. However, no matter what, I am still able to see the big picture, and it will be helpful for my future battles. However, here comes the problem. After losing so many cultivators, where am I going to go to make up for the lack of cultivators? With less people, the game doesn't seem to be fun anymore. The power of the entire cultivation world has fallen too much, and this is something that I didn't expect. How am I going to pull up the number of cultivators? This is a problem. Furthermore, that Justice and Order Alliance or whatever, I reckon that they want to form their own faction. I, the Supreme Overlord, should grant them a wish. How am I going to increase the number of cultivators? Yi Hua's brain quickly pondered. Earth's spiritual energy has dried up, causing ordinary people to be unable to sense it at all. And the powerful cultivators were able to absorb the meager amount of spiritual energy, causing the state of lacking spiritual energy. If I am able to envelop the entire world with spiritual energy, then a large number of cultivators will appear. Yi Hua felt that this idea was not bad. Cultivating is to strengthen one's body, and one's lifespan will also increase. Humans, you all should really be thankful for my benevolent heart. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. He had already decided on what to do. Yi Hua left a mirror image on the bed to prevent it from being discovered by Qingya. Some things still have to be done secretly. I, the Supreme Overlord, never leave my name behind when doing good deeds. And even if I leave my name behind, it would only be a bad name. Right now, Yi Hua had arrived 10,000 meters above the ground, and was looking down at the entire world. As long as Yi Hua willed it, Sunfall Heavenly Fire would be able to turn the entire world into a sea of flames. Yi Hua's hands could be seen condensing a huge amount of spiritual pressure, and the entire sky seemed to be trembling. At this moment, a lot of people felt that a terrifying amount of spiritual energy was slowly condensing, and some of them even thought that it was the end of the world. Because a spiritual pressure like this wasn't something that a human would be able to withstand. Yihua laughed lightly. You all should really be thankful to me. I am the one who granted you all longevity and health. Of course, there is also death and despair. It all depends on how you all choose. Spiritual energy shall awaken. Along with Yihua's hands clenching, the huge amount of spiritual pressure in his hands exploded, forming a lump of white spiritual energy that enveloped the entire world. After doing all that, Yihua disappeared from the sky. Hugging onto his wife and son, he went to sleep. I am really curious about how the world will be like tomorrow. I am really so excited. However, right now, it was raining heavily outside. And of course, there was also the boundless spiritual energy that was lingering in the air. That dense spiritual energy was currently changing their physique. Even if they don't cultivate, their lifespan would still be doubled, and their immune system would also be very strong. Thus, it was impossible for them to catch a cold. Of course, to the cultivation world, all of this could be counted as good, but overall speaking, it was still not good. To them, this amount of spiritual energy was already enough. No matter how much spiritual energy they were given, it would be useless. The more spiritual energy is, the more precious it is. This logic was known to everyone. Right now, with how abundant spiritual energy was, wouldn't it mean that everyone would be able to cultivate? If that was the case, where would the status of the cultivation world be? For a special existence to return back to its ordinary state, wasn't this just asking for people's lives? Indeed, this move of Yihua's made the people in the cultivation world very vexed. Even the most ordinary cultivator would be respected and worshipped by others, but right now, that was something that couldn't be any more normal, who would still worship and worship him. However, to the powerful cultivators, this was still a good thing, because more people would respect them, and they wouldn't have to follow the rules set by the big shots, and they would be able to openly walk on the streets of the city. In just one night, Yihua had once again disrupted the situation in the cultivation world. Chapter 574. Winner. Ing Jingshan had long walked out of his room, and was currently looking at the sky with his brows tightly knitted. Why did spiritual energy suddenly recover? How did this happen? Also, what's with that huge spiritual pressure? Could it be a supreme overlord? If it really is a supreme overlord, then isn't this too powerful? To be able to cause spiritual energy to recover with just a raise of his hand. This is terrifying. However, whether this spiritual energy recovery is a good thing or a bad thing, Ing Jingshan doesn't know, but he has a feeling that it isn't a good thing. Meanwhile, in Voidless Realm, Donghuang Baiji was also startled awake by that terrifying spiritual pressure, and even though there was a barrier, she could still feel it. This spiritual energy recovery is too strange and too sudden. There are no signs at all. And who is the one who released that terrifying spiritual pressure? Is it a human or the heavens? Donghuang Baiji immediately thought of her husband. Could it be Yihua? It can't be. Is he that powerful? Tomorrow I will ask Qingye and find out. However, regarding this spiritual energy recovery, Donghuang Baiji also didn't know how to deal with it, because the situation changed too quickly, and she didn't even have the time to prepare. Within Wang family's villa in Harbor City, the people from Justice Alliance also felt it. So powerful. Is this the doing of a human, or something else? Wang Debao looked at the sky and muttered. Feng Tian also revealed a shocked expression. That spiritual pressure just now caused me to be unable to breathe, and it exploded in an instant, causing boundless spiritual energy to fall along with the rain. Just what is going on? God supporting heaven looked at the sky and didn't say a word. With regards to the current situation, I feel that this should be a good thing. Chen Xuanzong said faintly. With the spiritual energy recovery, a large number of cultivators will appear. And when that time comes, will there still be a lack of people? Bai Cixin felt that it was the same. Strength can only be displayed when there are more people. God supporting heaven let out a light sigh. The spiritual energy recovery this time messed up all of my plans. Is this man-made or is it a random variable? God supporting heaven can't be sure. From the looks of it, Yihua won the first round of brainpower competition, and completely messed up God supporting heaven's plan. Since the spiritual energy has recovered, then let us follow the will of the heavens and thoroughly spread the influence of Justice Alliance. Gather all the heroes in the world. Qing Tian shouted as his confidence returned. Everyone couldn't help but nod their heads. God supporting heaven's expression gradually calmed down, and he asked curiously, "Will Mate One deliver on the second night of the new year?" Everyone within Long and City's winery currently, Jiu Yi wasn't asleep at all. On the contrary, he was excitedly standing under the heavy rain, and his expression was a bit strange. He looked like he was nervous, but also seemed like he was excited. After a long time, Lord Jiu finally calmed down. He raised his head slightly and looked towards the sky. "God, you finally opened your eyes. Is this the smell of spiritual qi? I, Lord Jiu, have finally made a comeback. Ha 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 ha." Lord Jiu ran madly under the torrential rain, as if he had gone mad. He arrived under a big tree, and Lord Jiu placed his palm on it. A burst of blue light scanned it. The ground beside them suddenly caved in, revealing a flight of stairs. A row of lights instantly lit up. Lord Jiu walked down the stairs. After walking for about 10 meters, Lord Jiu arrived at his own secret room and clapped his hands. The voice-activated lights were all turned on. If there was someone here, they would definitely be stunned by the things that Lord Jiu had collected. Lord Jiu had worked for various masters, and all the rewards he had received were all here. Lord Jiu had thought that he would never be able to use them in this lifetime, because some things needed to be powered by spiritual energy. Now that the spiritual energy had recovered and he had the strength, these treasures could finally be put to use. Lord Jiu could be seen admiring his treasures and casually picking up an ancient sword. Lord Jiu coldly snorted. "Ancient godly item, I, Lord Jiu, have no interest in it." There were even fragments of ancient godly items, spiritual herbs, and so on placed at the side. These were all rewards given by Lord Jiu's previous masters. This also showed that Lord Jiu's previous masters were indeed valiant. They could casually give out such good things. This lord also chooses his masters. Do you think that anyone can be my master? You are thinking too much. In the deepest part of the Pacific Ocean, Qi Shuwen had transformed into a small golden dragon, and was currently devouring all kinds of fishes. When will this end? I have a huge debt. Luckily, I obtained the longevity fruit, or else I would have suffered a huge loss. I originally wanted to get first place, but Xian Ba is really too valiant. Just as Qi Shuwen was lamenting, he suddenly felt a sense of danger coming from behind him. He immediately used Divine Dragon Tail Whip. The seawater suddenly boiled, and Qi Shuwen blankly stared at the strange creature in front of him. What the F***ck is this fish? Why does it have 2 heads and legs? Its body is actually so huge. Why have I never seen it before? Qi Shuwen was stunned. The unknown creature in front of him made Qi Shuwen dumbfounded. Following the system's feedback, this fish was very valuable. Swallowing it could be exchanged for a huge amount of dragon energy. However, this fish seemed to look down on Qi Shuwen, this small golden dragon, and actually swam over. How could Qi Shuwen let go of such a good opportunity? He hurriedly chased after it. Gradually, he disappeared into the darkness at the bottom of the sea. However, in less than half a minute, a small golden dragon could be seen frantically running away, followed by a group of the same kind of fish. Ong! When Qi Shuwen was running away, suddenly there was a loud noise, and a large piece of darkness enveloped Qi Shuwen. Qi Shuwen raised his head to look, and he was so scared that his scalp went numb. What the hell is this? A giant whale that was several hundred meters long appeared above their heads. It immediately opened its bloody mouth, revealing rows of gleaming silver teeth that caused people to shudder. In a single mouthful, he had eaten those strange fishes just now. Qi Shuwen's mind was already stupefied. Since when was a whale able to swim so deep into the water, and also so long and so huge? With a panicked expression, Qi Shuwen felt that he had to hurry back home. However, on the way home, Qi Shuwen saw a lot of strange creatures, and he was scared to the point of shivering. Have you ever seen a tank-sized crayfish before? Damn it, all of them have mutated. Xian Ba lived in Yangshan City, and right now he was also blankly looking at the heavy rain. Teacher, just what is going on? Xian Ba asked blankly as he sensed the rich spiritual energy around him. Feng Lao said faintly. Someone opened the door of spiritual energy. This person is so terrifying. Let's not go and provoke that person then. Xian Ba, right now the spiritual energy is abundant. Train properly. The current situation is beneficial to us. Master, I understand. You can be at ease. All right, I will definitely train properly. Xian Ba nodded his head. This is my chance. The God bestowed me with such a strong spiritual energy. It is all for me to rise up. At this very moment, all kinds of caves appeared in the remote mountainous area. The low roar of monsters rang out in the dark forest, and the wild tiger's body instantly became huge, becoming even more bloodthirsty. Chapter 575. This was the revival of spirit energy. Humans were improving, and so were all the animals. On the Pacific Ocean, a luxurious cruise ship was sailing in the darkness. The light it emitted was very unique, like a candle in the dark. In the cockpit, a few crew members were checking the data to make sure it was safe. The cabin door was suddenly pushed open, and a foreigner in pajamas walked in. Captain! 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 The captain, who was wearing a thick cotton jacket, glanced around. Is everything safe? Report, everything is safe. The captain nodded and felt relieved. This was his last voyage. After this, he would retire. He couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Beep, beep, beep. At this time, the radar suddenly sounded, which surprised everyone. There shouldn't be anything else in this area of the sea. Could it be another ship? The crew immediately checked, and when they saw what was displayed on the radar, they were dumbfounded. What's wrong? The captain asked. The frequency of the radar warning grew faster and faster, as if they were about to collide. The captain panicked and hurriedly ran over, pushing his crew aside. He placed his hands on the radar and focused his gaze. His pupils immediately dilated. Leida's shadow indicated that a huge monster was rapidly approaching. What is this? The captain exclaimed. All the crew members were at a loss. Just as everyone was panicking, the ship shook violently. The huge creature was at the bottom of the ship. The captain hurriedly ran out and stood on the deck. Then they could see that the sea was boiling, and they could vaguely see a giant creature swimming. God, what is this thing? The old captain was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat, and his face was filled with horror. Captain! Oh no, the cabin is flooded. The captain frowned and walked in again, shouting, Close the gate. Call for help. Yes. The captain looked at the dark sea again. At this time, the sea was calm, as if it had never appeared. On the morning of the third day of Chinese New Year, the sun was bright and beautiful, and the warm sunlight shone into the bedroom through the window. Qinya could be seen snuggling into Yi Hua's embrace, and the little fellow Yi Yen was actually crawling onto his father's chest, and saliva was even flowing out from the corner of his mouth. Why are you still sleeping? Something happened. Dong Huang Baiji's figure suddenly appeared beside the bed. Yi Hua slowly opened his eyes and saw his son, as well as the saliva at the corner of his son's mouth. My God, why is he the same as his mother? Loves to drool. Qinya moaned a few times, then opened her beautiful eyes. Baiji, you came so early in the morning? Yi Yan also opened his eyes at this time. Seeing his father's fierce gaze, he was so frightened that he threw himself into his mother's arms. Look at this saliva, it is all inherited from you. Yi Hua pointed at the saliva on the pajamas and said helplessly. Qinya snorted. He is still your son. The hell? Are the two of you even listening to what I'm saying? Dong Huang Baiji was very speechless. Why are the two of you still discussing about saliva now? Qinya sat up and asked. What happened? Just take a look outside and you will understand. Dong Huang Baiji said. While yawning, Qinya carried her son and opened the window. After that, he went into a daze, and he even rubbed his eyes as if he had seen a ghost. What a big bird. Qinya muttered. A giant magpie was flying in the sky, like a Boeing 747 flying at low altitude. Yi Hua stood at the side and looked at the magpie. F***K. Is the revival of spiritual energy able to cause a bird to become so big? What kind of situation is this? Qinya was very puzzled and completely didn't know what to say. I can't be dreaming, right? Donghuang Baiji held onto her forehead. Yihua, Qinya, don't the two of you feel anything? Wow. The spiritual energy has become a lot denser. Yihua cried out in surprise. As expected of someone who won the Best Male Lead award. However, it has been a long time since I acted in a movie, so I'm a bit exaggerated. Qinya also felt it and cried out in surprise. This spiritual energy. That's right. The spiritual energy has revived. After finished speaking, Donghuang Baiji looked towards Yihua, seemingly asking if he was the one who did the revival of spiritual energy. Yihua said indifferently, I was having sex with Qinya last night, you can ask her. Qinya didn't feel embarrassed. Yihua was with me the entire time last night. After hearing what Yihua said, Donghuang Baiji felt a bit embarrassed and cast an apologetic gaze towards her husband. After all, the strength that Yihua displayed on Cerulean Planet was too strong, and Donghuang Baiji could only think of this point. Yihua turned his head and looked towards the magpie that was in the sky. Suddenly, the magpie took a poop, and the poop actually covered the car that was in the middle of driving. The corner of Yihua's mouth twitched. Luckily, I didn't say that I was the one who did it. This kind of consequence is out of my imagination. I will go back and deal with it first. Everything is in a mess. After finished speaking, Donghuang Baiji left the bedroom. Meanwhile, Yihua and Qinya just stood beside the window and looked at the magpie taking a poop. It was just like dropping a bomb. Too scary. At this moment, Qin Yutong rushed into the bedroom. Brother-in-law, big sister, something big happened. Quickly come and look at the news. Yihua and Qinya walked downstairs, and Qinya's entire family could be seen watching the news with a shocked expression on their faces. For example, the tiger in the zoo turned into a terrifying giant beast. Although the monkey didn't become bigger, its speed was extremely fast, and the supermarket was already occupied by the monkey. The cruise ship was opened by an unknown creature, but fortunately, there were no casualties. Some people were able to push a car, and some people were able to destroy an ATM machine with a single punch. In any case, everything was in a mess. This is an unexpected thing. I definitely didn't expect that it would become like this. This is too exaggerated. I wonder if I can take back the spiritual energy, but I reckon that I won't be able to. Setting a fire is easy, but putting it out is hard. Everything is in a mess. This is a financial crisis. We are going to go bankrupt. Qing Huaxian held onto his forehead and let out a long sigh. Qinya said in a low voice, Yihua, I have to go and help Baiji. I will leave my son to you to take care of him for a few days. Yutong, you come with me as well. After finished speaking, Qinya handed Yi Yan over to Yihua, then pulled his little sister upstairs and hurriedly rushed towards Voidless Realm. Before Yi Yan could even react, he had already arrived in his father's embrace. Does Mom not want me anymore? Mom threw me into an abyss of suffering, scared to the point that Yan peed in his pants. Yihua's expression stiffened, and he felt a warm current flowing through his body. My son actually peed in his pants. Damn it. Yi Yan looked at his father embarrassedly. Your dad, you scared Yan to the point that he peed in his pants. Don't blame me. Just as Yihua was preparing to go and change his clothes, a piece of news caught his attention. News from our station. Just a while ago, a group of people who call themselves the Justice Alliance stood out and used their powerful strength to help the people get rid of the scourge. At the same time, the same group of people appeared in various places, and they called themselves cultivators. Chapter 576. The TV screen just happened to switch to Wang Debao's face, who was killing a huge rat. With a swoosh, blood splattered everywhere. The camera was blurred, and he couldn't help but feel disgusted. A hand wiped the lens, and Wang Debao grinned. Welcome to the Righteous Alliance. We are a team that protects the safety of the world. We will go wherever there is danger. Bang. Before he could finish, he was snatched away by an eagle. Wife, save me. However, it was not just the Righteous Alliance. Many other people took this opportunity to recruit experts and maintain law and order. After all, they were all intelligent people. How could they give up on such a good opportunity? Qing Huaxian, who was originally frustrated, suddenly cried out in surprise. Seems like our company is going to change its line of work. Yihua carried his son and went upstairs to change his clothes. I feel that it is better for Voidless Realm to not get involved in this kind of matter. Even if Voidless Realm were to get involved in this matter, it wouldn't be of much use to them. This is a large-scale disaster, and it isn't something that a few thousand people from Voidless Realm would be able to solve. After putting on the diapers for his son, and helping his son to put on his clothes, Yihua, the nanny father, finally let out a breath of relief. After that, Yihua began changing his clothes. Yi Yan sat on the bed and looked at his father with his big eyes. He didn't seem so fierce. It seemed like he wasn't a gift from someone who topped up his phone. After tying his son to his chest, Yihua prepared to go to Voidless Realm to take a look and give them some practical suggestions. In the desert outside of Voidless Realm, there was a huge poisonous scorpion that was crawling slowly, and there was also a huge cobra that was crawling on the ground. Inside Voidless Realm, Donghuang Baiji was currently discussing with Qinya about countermeasures. Qin Yutong's playful expression changed, and she gave the most sincere suggestion. At this moment, Yihua also appeared at the side. When the three women saw the way Yihua was dressed, the corners of their mouths twitched. Wasn't he a super nanny? When Qinya saw that her son stopped crying after being together with Yihua, she felt much more at ease. You all don't need to discuss anymore. A lot of cultivators have already stood out to resist, and it won't be long before the crisis is resolved. Yihua said faintly. The little guy, Yi Yan, sucked on his finger and watched curiously without making a fuss. Donghuang Baiji said gravely, even if the crisis within the city is resolved, what are we going to do about the crisis outside? For example, the animals within the desert have all evolved into spiritual beings. Yihua revealed an expression that said, you are all idiots. This is the law of nature. Do you intend to eliminate all dangers? Just you three women and the several thousand people from Voidless Realm? Dream on. Yihua ruthlessly struck down on her. I don't know what this woman is thinking about. Yihua's words dealt a huge blow to the three women. After pausing for a moment, Yihua said again, the revival of spiritual energy this time is a test for people. It also shows that we have entered a new era, and people have to adapt to the new era. It is the same for you guys. You guys are really stupid. Yi Yan, who was in his arms, nodded. There was nothing wrong with his father's words. When Qinya saw that her son was actually able to nod his head, she immediately felt that the situation wasn't good. I have only taught my son to Yihua for around 10 minutes, and my son is already being led astray. What are you doing? I will be taking care of the child for the next few days and nurture our relationship. Yihua refused to give the child to Qinya. This caused Qinya to become anxious, as if her husband was going to snatch the child away from her. Yihua, I still need someone to feed me milk. Qinya was fighting over Yihua, and Donghuang Baiji and Qin Yutong were shaking their heads. I can feed them too, Yihua said gravely. Wow, brother-in-law, you still have this kind of ability? Qin Yutong cried out in surprise. Qinya, who was standing at the side, bit onto her lips and had a look of if you don't give me my son, I will cry on her face. You all continue with the meeting. I will bring my son out to play. After finished speaking, Yihua left. Qinya stomped her feet in anger. Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. Qinya, don't be angry. Do you think that Yihua will be able to steal your son away? That's right, brother-in-law even knows how to feed. I am really curious how brother-in-law feeds his son. Qin Yutong began filling in the blanks in her mind. Let us continue to discuss about our future plans. Donghuang Baiji retracted her smile and said solemnly. Qinya and Qin Yutong also became serious. We cannot be careless with this matter. Meanwhile, Yihua also gathered all of his subordinates at Leisure Bar and began the first meeting of the new year. The location of the meeting had already changed from Leisure Bar's toilet to Leisure Bar's main hall. This caused Wei Chang and Lai Gu to let out a sigh of relief. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Little honor. Everyone bowed down respectfully and shouted out loudly. Yi Yan, who was in Yihua's embrace, blinked his big eyes. Looking at his father's subordinates, Yi Yan's heart was filled with curiosity. Everyone get up, Yihua said faintly. Thank you, your honor. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette, paused for a moment, then took it back. My son is still here. Smoking doesn't seem to be too good. Sitting on the high chair, Yihua said faintly. You all should know about today's matter, right? All of Yihua's subordinates nodded their heads. Yesterday night, I felt that His Honor definitely has a new plan. In the new year, there must be a new atmosphere. I, the Supreme Overlord, have given out spiritual energy as a red packet for the world. Your Honor's great fortune, this will be a good fortune for mankind. All of Yihua's subordinates shouted out in unison once again, seemingly as if they had already thought of their lines beforehand. Yihua nodded his head, and Yi Yan, who was in Yihua's embrace, nodded his head as well, just that Yihua didn't see it. Tell me, what is your goal for this year? It's over. His Honor is going to start the test. Lai Gu and Yi Zizi immediately shut up. If I don't participate in this kind of test, I will be scolded if I don't speak well. Seeing that all of Yihua's subordinates were not speaking, Yihua had no choice but to call out names. Yi Zizi, tell me what I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to do in the future. Yi Zizi cried out in surprise. What are you doing, Your Honor? You know that I am very lazy. I am not suitable to answer questions. What Tell me. Yihua shouted out lightly. Yi Zizi puffed out her cheeks and said gloomily. His Honor wants to unify the world. Everyone. Isn't it just a matter of time for His Honor to unify the world? As expected, I shouldn't have asked Yi Zizi. Looking at His Honor's disappointed gaze, Yi Zizi lowered her head in grievance. It's not like I'm good at answering questions. Wei Chong, tell me what you think. Yihua said faintly. I feel that after the new year, all of my subordinates are stupefied. Wei Chong paused for a moment, then took a step forward and said respectfully. His Honor wants to use the same old trick again. Am I, the Supreme Overlord, such a senseless person? Would I use the same trick again after using it once? Yihua's brows wrinkled. He was very dissatisfied. All of Yihua's subordinates sensed His Honor's dissatisfaction and began to become nervous. Zhu Tian felt that it was time for him to tell His Honor. However, Brett hastened his pace as he bowed down and said, His Honor's goal should be Justice Alliance. Brett is smarter than all of you. At the very least, he is able to point out the root of the problem. Yihua said gravely. All of Yihua's subordinates lowered their heads and remained silent as they listened to His Honor's lecture. I didn't expect that the first meeting of the new year would be like this. Chapter 577. Yihua continued. Last year, the number of people in the cultivation world decreased greatly, and this time around, I wanted to replenish some fresh blood. Just that, I didn't expect that when I was replenishing some fresh blood, such a situation would still occur. However, right now the situation is under control. What is worthy for me to be happy about is that there are people who are planning to use this opportunity to form their own faction. Justice and Order Alliance can be counted as the earliest to form their own faction. And right now, there are even more factions that are forming their own faction. All of these factions do not place Voidless Realm and Ying family in their eyes anymore. Speaking up to here, Yihua paused for a moment, then looked towards his subordinates. Yi Zizi raised her hand and answered. His Honor wants us to kill those people? Yihua slapped the air in annoyance. Yi Zizi held onto her head and felt extremely wronged. I want to see how they fight. Wei Chong. Ask the Ying family to distribute the ancient godly items. Remember, every ancient godly item is divided into 3 fragments and slowly guide them. Understand? Yes. Wei Chong respectfully accepted the order. Brett, there's no need to keep an eye on the Righteous Alliance. If I know everything, it'll be boring. Yes. Brett lowered his head and accepted the order. Yihua stood up and emphasized once again. Remember, we are law-abiding citizens and we will never kill people. The subordinates' lips curled up into a sinister smile. Your Honor, subordinates will remember. The subordinates shouted out in unison. Brett, stay here. Everyone else, disperse. Yes. Before leaving, Zhu Tian took a look at His Honor. Could it be that His Honor is planning to persuade Brett again? His Honor is simply too good to me, and I can only repay His Honor's kindness by sacrificing my life. Sit. Yihua said faintly. This subordinate doesn't dare. Brett's expression didn't change in the slightest as he replied respectfully. Yihua didn't insist and said lightly, "What do you intend to do next?" "We await your next command," Brett said in a low voice. "What are you going to do while you wait?" Brett said nothing. "Actually, you should find someone to accompany you. Look at them, they already have their other half." After hearing what Ju Tian said, Brett's expression finally changed and he said gravely, "Your Honor, I will never forgive Ju Tian. When did I say that I would let you and Ju Tian fight?" Yihua laughed lightly. Brett slightly raised his head. "Your Honor, I have found a husband for you. In a few days, you should meet him first and then get married." Brett was shocked by his Honor's words and he hurriedly said, "Your Honor, isn't this a little too hasty?" "Hasty? Or are you going to disobey my orders?" Yihua's expression sunk, and he emitted out ice-cold killing intent. Brett hurriedly knelt on the ground with a terrified expression. "This subordinate deserves to die." "All right, you can go now. I'll inform you to go on a blind date. Remember, I'm not asking for your permission. Subordinate will listen to your Honor's arrangements." Brett felt that his Honor didn't seem to be joking, thus he could only agree to it. Yihua waved his hand, and Brett bowed and retreated a few steps. After that, Brett disappeared from the hall. Pinching onto his son's cheeks, Yihua let out a breath. "Every time I see Brett sitting at the side by himself and separated from the group, I will feel unhappy." This time he also planned to suppress Brett, but where should he go to find the male lead? What a problem! "Yeah, Yi Yan suddenly shouted. Yihua carried on to his son, and the father and son pair looked at each other deeply. After a while Yihua asked, "Hungry?" The little fellow nodded his head. Yihua had no choice but to send the little fellow to Voidless Realm first. "Just now, I wanted to feed my son spicy gluten, but unfortunately, I don't have any teeth. Seems like I have to learn how to make milk." 1 month passed by in the blink of an eye, and Yi Yan was now 1 month old. The little fellow was a bit mischievous now, and he had already learned how to walk when he was around 10 days old. Big sister Donghuang Li had been playing with little brother in Voidless Realm every day, causing a lot of chaos. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were having a headache. In the beginning, everyone only felt that the 2 little princes were mischievous, but after a while, the 2 princes weren't just mischievous at all, they were simply the kings of destruction. Right now, the 2 siblings were currently standing in front of their mother with their heads lowered. The 2 siblings' faces were dirty, and it was clear that they had just done something bad. There were even chicken feathers on Yi Yan's head. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji looked at their children with a stern expression. Yihua sat at the side and drank his tea leisurely. The 2 siblings would send a distress signal to him from time to time. "Daddy, save me." In the past, Yi Yan would often shout for Mommy to save me, but right now it had completely changed. Mommy is the real culprit, and Daddy is the warmest. "Ollie, what's going on with you? Bringing your little brother to cause trouble?" Donghuang Baiji started lecturing. Donghuang Li lowered her head and looked at her toes. Qingye reprimanded. "Yener, how did Mommy teach you? You are already 1 month old, yet you are still so immature." Yihua almost sprayed out the tea that he was drinking. "Isn't the demand a bit too high? How can a child be mature after 1 month old?" Yi Yan muttered in a low voice. "You still dare to talk back to me?" Qingye, who had a bad temper, immediately took out a feather duster. Seeing that his mother was going to fly into a rage, Yi Yan immediately pounced into his father's embrace. "Daddy, Mommy is going to hit me again." Yihua placed down the teacup and said faintly, "Qingye, your demand is too high, Yener is still so young." Yi Yan nodded his head. "Mommy's demand is too high, she actually wants me to memorize poems, write poems, and other random things right now. I am only 1 month old, other people's children are still sleeping in the cradle when they are 1 month old." Qingye snorted coldly. "Yihua, don't protect Yener, see if I don't beat him to death today." Donghuang Li couldn't help but laugh secretly, and her mother just happened to see her laughing. "Ollie, you are still laughing." Donghuang Baiji could be seen taking out a feather duster. Donghuang Li imitated her little brother and pounced into her father's embrace. "Daddy, Mommy is going to use domestic violence. You two, enough. How can there be mothers like you two, hitting children for no reason?" Yi Hua's expression turned cold. Even I can't bear to hit the two of them. Qingye snorted, then shook the feather duster. Tonight. Yi Hua let out a cold laugh. To actually use this kind of thing to threaten me, do you two think that I will compromise? Ali Yen'er, will the two of you listen to Daddy's words? Yi Hua asked seriously, as if he was going to bring the two little fellows away from home. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan nodded their heads vigorously. All right then, listen to Daddy's words and just hit Mommy a few times. Dong Huangli. Yi Yan. While holding on to the feather duster, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji walked over with a strange smile on their faces, scaring the two little fellows to the point that they started trembling. Little brother runs fast. Dong Huangli pulled onto her little brother and ran out. Chapter 578. You two don't be so strict. Children at this age should naturally play around. Yi Hua persuaded carefully. In the past, you two even said that you two are the same. Qingye laughed. You can't be like this. Children need to be educated from a young age. Look at Yen'er, he has been making noise everywhere, and Ali has been led astray by Yen. Dong Huangli doted on her little brother quite a bit, and sometimes, she even helped her little brother to take the blame. It's really good to have this kind of elder sister. It's normal for a boy to be a bit naughty. Yi Hua sighed lightly. If Yen'er was like a girl and didn't make noise, Yi Hua wouldn't like it. Donghuang Baiji nodded her head. What Yi Hua said is right, don't be too strict. You two. Qingye snorted, then sat down and drank her tea. Let's talk about proper business. Recently, that Justice Alliance has been in the limelight. Donghuang Baiji sat beside Yi Hua and poured herself a cup of tea. Donghuang Baiji was a bit irritated. This Justice Alliance had recruited quite a lot of people in this 1 month, and they had even obtained the Good Citizen Award. They had been killing spirit creatures everywhere, restoring order to all the big cities. The problem was, a lot of families had withdrawn from the management of the big powers, some joined the Justice Alliance, and some even established their own families. In short, they did not want to be managed by the big powers anymore. However, Voidless Realm and Ing family both remained silent, giving people a kind of misconception, as if they were tacitly agreeing to this situation, causing even more families to withdraw from the big powers. Other than Justice Alliance, another organization called Peace Association emerged, and they could be counted as the two most snobbish and powerful organizations right now. They didn't differentiate between North and South, and they would go wherever there was trouble. Voidless Realm and Ing family seemed to have faded out of people's sight. In the past, people didn't even mention these two big powers, and right now, newcomers didn't even know that these two big powers existed. Furthermore, in this short 1 month, more and more regulations were introduced one after another. It couldn't be helped, they had to adapt to the new environment. For young people, such a world was too exciting. It was just like a fantasy world in a novel. They could practice powerful martial arts and fly in the sky. They could destroy the world with a wave of their hands and feet. They could be a peerless hero or a devil incarnate. Some businessmen were also looking for business opportunities. They opened various academies and hired experts from the cultivation world to be teachers. The whole world was slowly moving towards a new height, and the benefits still outweighed the disadvantages. The corresponding ranking system would also be introduced in a month's time. The entire world would be unified to prevent chaos. The stars, moons, and suns were used to determine the levels of strength. The 5 stars were upgraded to the moon, and the 5 moons were upgraded to the sun. It was simple and easy to understand. However, one shouldn't underestimate this power level. This was the result that all the experts came up with. Right now there weren't any Sun-class elites in the world, and there were very few Sun-class elites in March or April. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin were only 2 moons and 4 stars. Feng Tian was a 4 moons expert, and could be considered an influential figure. Qing Tian had also been tested, and was also a 4 moons expert. However, Feng Tian and the others did not believe that Qing Tian was deliberately suppressing his strength. With 4 moons imprinted on his chest, he would be respected when he walked out. Now people would look at his chest first and not at his money. Because no matter how much money one had, one would still have to kneel down and lick a powerful cultivator. Furthermore, people nowadays like to form parties to fight monsters. After all, the bodies of those animals were all treasures that could be made into spiritual artifacts. There were even some people who found some caves that were guarded by powerful demons. It felt like they were fighting a dungeon, just that there was only one chance to fight a dungeon like this. And if one was slightly careless, one would lose their life. Those who didn't have a bit of strength could only watch from the sidelines, not daring to move. Meanwhile, the desert outside of Voidless Realm was already classified as a forbidden area. There were too many ferocious beasts in that place, and if one were to come here, one would basically die. Furthermore, the sea was rather dangerous as well. Without a few powerful figures guarding the sea, no one would dare to go out to sea. I really don't know what you two are worried about. What does the strength of the Justice and Order Alliance have to do with us? You two just have to do your own part. Why are you two still caring about other people's opinion? Yihua couldn't understand the two women. After all, Donghuang Baiji had been an empress for so long, and right now, she was worried about personal gains and losses. In the past she controlled the entire north, but now? Since other people don't even give a damn about them, how could they possibly feel comfortable? Furthermore, other powers were gradually becoming bigger and bigger, and they had obtained everyone's acknowledgement, causing Qingye and Donghuang Baiji to feel sullen. In other words, he was unhappy and displeased. Hearing Yihua's words, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji became like a deflated balloon and became dispirited. You two, in the past, you two didn't fight for anything, and now that someone else is fighting for something, you two are acting like this. Hehe women. Yihua teased his two wives to his heart's content, expressing that he was feeling very good. Donghuang Baiji refuted. It's all because you didn't allow it. What are you two women trying to do? Don't you know how to keep a low profile? Why don't you learn from me? As a mother, shouting about killing every day, what a scandal. This is the jealousy that comes from a woman. Even Qingye and Donghuang Baiji have this kind of bad habit. The two wives pouted and remained silent. Luckily, the little fellows weren't present. If not, their image would definitely be ruined if they saw their mother acting like this. Rest assured, Voidless Realm will forever be a big power. This is something that no one can change. They are just consoling themselves. Yihua said faintly, then walked out of the room. He wanted to let the two women calm down, because there was going to be a big show today, and Yihua was going to join in the fun. Other than Zhu Tian, everyone knew about this. And that was Brett's blind date. It was today. Blind date. Gold Raider Colonel Dofusher. Wei Chang was truly unable to find a reliable person, and he only heard from Death Mage that there was such a person who was rather reliable. Actually, the Blood Demon had wanted to put on a show at the start and act as the matchmaker. What if the show turned out to be real? Brett was so beautiful, so sexy, so compatible with the Blood Demon. They were a perfect match. At the start, Yihua only had this choice, but the sudden appearance of Dofusher made Yihua change his view. After all, Dofusher was an outsider, and this was much better. Dofusher was also very surprised. Ever since he separated from his big brother and sister-in-law, Dofusher started doing his old profession of catching ghosts. As for digging up tombs, forget about it. Those tombs are all for scamming children. Suddenly, Big Brother looked for me and said that I have a very important mission, and after I complete it, I can join the group? There's a power outage today. There's a power outage today. This is so depressing. Chapter 579. Hearing such news, Dofusher became very excited. He had wanted to join the group long ago, but he didn't have any contribution points. Now the opportunity is right in front of me. As long as I complete the mission, I will be able to worship the big boss. Just thinking about it makes me excited. However, Dofusher suddenly felt that something was wrong. Why did he have to look for me? Big Brother is so powerful. Is there anything that he can't do? This mission is definitely going to be very dangerous. Dofusher felt that he had to give it his all. If he wins, he will join the group and worship the big boss. If he loses, he will cry. When he heard the mission, Dofusher was stupefied. I am actually asked to go on a blind date. Although I am just putting on an act, Dofusher is already very satisfied. This isn't even considered a mission at all. It's just a small mission. I can settle it in a few minutes. However, Do Fusher still doesn't know who his blind date partner is. There is still Ju Tian who is eyeing him covetously. In a coffee shop in Long'an City, Do Fusher saw his blind date partner and was stupefied by the other party's appearance and aura. This is the blind date partner? Why does he look so good? I'm finished, my heart is beating so fast, I'm going to die. This appearance, this figure, this is too perfect. Meanwhile, Brett was also observing Do Fusher, and her eyebrows were tightly knitted together. I don't understand why His Honor arranged such a weak man. He is 10,000 times worse than Ju Tian. Look at him, he doesn't have any confidence at all. A man like him is actually blushing. If not for His Honor's order, he would have already left. However, Yi Hua and the others were standing not far away from Brett. Of course, this was not something that others could see, not even Brett noticed. After all, this was a spell cast by an overlord. If Brett was able to notice it, it meant that his strength had reached the pinnacle. His Honor, this arrangement of yours is too bad. He isn't worthy of Brett at all. Lai Gu muttered. Even if you want to put on a show, you should at least find a stronger one. Yi Hua said faintly. It is precisely because he is weak. Wei Chang nodded his head. He understood what His Honor meant. Ju Tian is probably going to faint from anger. I didn't expect Brett to find such a weak person. His Honor is truly becoming more and more intelligent. Subordinates admire him greatly. Right now, not only does he have to look at the big picture, he also has to take care of the subordinates' private life. Did you send out any messages? Yi Hua asked indifferently. If the male lead is missing from this matter, then what is the point of playing with the hammer? Wei Chang said respectfully. Your Honor can be at ease. We have already leaked out a bit of information in the group. I believe that Ju Tian should already know about it. That's good. Absolute heaven must not find out about this matter. This subordinate obeys. Everyone looked at the couple again. Do Fusher lowered his head and took a sip of the coffee on the table before asking in a low voice. What do you usually do? Yi Hua and the others immediately face-bombed. Can't King ask some questions that have technical content? Do you want me, the Supreme Overlord, to teach you how to go on a blind date? Brett almost couldn't help but slap him. He couldn't compare to absolute heaven at all. Murder, Brett said coldly. Puff. Do Fusher couldn't hold it in, and a little bit of coffee flowed out of the corner of his mouth. This woman was too cold. She killed people at the slightest provocation. Couldn't she be a little more subtle? Like fighting and killing? Actually, I'm good at killing people too. Do Fusher calmed himself down. His mission was to gain Brett's favor, but when he thought about how it was fake, he felt a little sad. What if Brett is really unable to extricate herself from falling in love with me? When the time comes, I would have to tell her that everything is fake. It would be too hurtful. After all, Do Fusher can be counted as an outstanding man. Back then, even my sister-in-law had thoughts about me. It's fortunate that I calmed myself down. If not, I would have let down my big brother. Brett sneered. How many did you kill? Can we not talk about this bloody topic and talk about Qi, and talk about the world instead? Not interested. Let's talk about food then. There is a newly opened hot pot restaurant that is especially good. How about we go there? Not interested. Then, what are you interested in? Murder. Do Fusher. This is simply impossible to communicate with. We are not even on the same channel at all. Brett suddenly wrinkled her brows and said faintly, Come and sit over here. Ah. I told you to come over, so come over. Brett's beautiful eyes turned cold, scaring Do Fusher to the point that he almost peed in his pants. Do Fusher immediately sat beside Brett, and Brett lightly leaned onto Do Fusher's shoulder. Just like that, Do Fusher panicked. So fragrant. It's really fragrant. Is this the fragrance of a woman? That's not right. We were just talking about murder just a moment ago. Aren't you being too careless? After all, I, Do Fusher, am not a casual man. Suddenly, a man who wore a white suit walked into the coffee shop. The man's expression was frighteningly gloomy, and it seemed as if he would explode at any moment. The man who came was precisely Ju Tian. When he saw the contents of the WeChat group, He almost couldn't help but release his spiritual pressure. Brett actually went on a tryst. Which bastard dares to date my, Ju Tian's woman? Is he tired of living? Bringing along his anger, Ju Tian directly rushed over. Furthermore, when he saw the cold and arrogant Brett leaning onto a man's shoulder, a trace of an arc actually appeared on the corner of Ju Tian's mouth. This arc is something that even Ju Tian himself has never seen before. Your Honor, will Ju Tian go berserk? Wei Chang asked in a low voice. Right now Ju Tian is very unstable. Yi Hua shook his head. To be able to endure under such a situation, Ju Tian can be considered to be strong. Green hat, just thinking about it makes me excited, Lai Gu said sneakily. Tang Wei, who was at the side, said tenderly, Brett only likes absolute heaven. This sentence was rather pertinent. Don't look at how stubborn Brett was right now. In truth, his heart was filled with absolute heaven. No matter what kind of person he was, he would compare himself to absolute heaven. It could be seen just how important absolute heaven was in Brett's heart. At this moment, when Do Fusher saw absolute heaven, he instantly felt hostility. Coupled with Brett's previous actions, this person was definitely absolute heaven's ex-boyfriend. How could I, Do Fusher, be afraid of such a pretty boy? Floating Do did not know of absolute heaven's identity at all. If he had known, he would not have accepted this quest even if he was beaten to death. Absolute heaven walked over with a sullen expression on his face. He then sat down on the opposite side, his eyes fixed on the two of them. However, Do Fusher performed a shocking feat, causing Yi Hua and the others to go into a daze. What a good fellow. How daring. Do Fusher grabbed Brett's shoulder and shouted at absolute heaven. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a beautiful woman and a handsome guy before? This brat is not bad, Your Honor. Where did you find this weirdo from? Lai Gu's heart was filled with admiration. Even I don't dare to speak to Ju Tian like this, and yet this fellow is actually not afraid. Chapter 580. Yi Hua said faintly, Wei Chang was the one who found me. Lai Gu then asked Wei Chang, Where did you find him? Wei Chang said indifferently, It was Death Mage who found me. Lai Gu then looked towards Death Mage and asked, Brother, where did you find him? GGG Imperial Translation. There is no longer any meaning to it. That brother has to live. On the other side, Do Fusher's eyes bulged as he displayed his most savage side, staring straight at absolute heaven. Why do I feel that this expression is a bit similar to the Lai Gu in the past? Wei Chang interrupted. Lai Gu was very confused and asked curiously, How is that possible? The days when you were a dog. Lai Gu. Not to mention, Do Fusher's ferocious appearance was very similar to that of an arrogant husky. I'm going to be terrified soon. Absolute heaven coldly stared at Do Fusher. He was prepared to kill this lowly ant in front of him. Even he was willing to accompany Brett on a blind date. He was overestimating himself. However, Do Fusher still did not know that absolute heaven was about to make a move. Do Fusher extended his chin forward, revealing a row of teeth as if he was about to bite someone. Brett said lightly, He was introduced by our boss. Try touching him if you dare. Ju Tian was startled. His Honor arranged this? How could this be? Isn't His Honor standing on my side? Boss saw that I was too lonely, so he arranged a man for me. Brett slowly hugged Do Fusher's arm and said in a sweet voice. Do Fusher's ferocious expression was a little strange, because within this ferocious expression, there was even a hint of shyness. This kind of expression had already caused Lai Gu to burst into laughter. This brother is really too funny. In the past, the Green and Red brothers were also very funny. Now that they have a girlfriend, they are much more mature. Sensing the fragrance around him, Do Fusher coldly snorted. Who are you? Can't you see we're on a date? Hurry up and get lost. Everyone. Wei Chang let out a sigh. Even if this matter is over, this world of solitude. To actually shout scram in front of absolute heaven. Do Fusher was so arrogant, and the source of his arrogance was Brett. With a beauty by his side, how could his aura be weak? What would he do if he was looked down upon? This man was handsome, but his nails were thicker than hers. Moreover, His attitude was very bad. It was obvious that he was here to snatch her away. If the person was snatched away, then wouldn't his mission be ruined? Then the matter of him joining the team would be gone. No. He had to become a hero. The blue veins on Ju Tian's forehead bulged. This man actually dared to publicly insult him, and even told him to scram. Absolute Heaven's entire body was in a terrible state. However, his rationality still prevailed, and he did not accidentally kill off Floating Do. If Floating Battle Do was really killed now, then he would have died in vain. When Do Fusher thought about this matter in the future, he could not help but feel a chill run down his spine. It was as though he had taken a stroll through the gates of hell. Brett, what's the point of doing this? Absolute Heaven questioned coldly. Seeing Brett hugging another man, Absolute Heaven felt extremely displeased in his heart, and every hair on his body stood on end. Brett giggled, stretching out a slender finger and stroking Do Fusher's face. He's much stronger than you. Seeing Brett's frivolous actions, Absolute Heaven fiercely slammed his palm on the table. How could the table withstand Absolute Heaven's slap? The surrounding people were quite frightened. Ligu rubbed his chin and said faintly, "This is the first time I've seen Absolute Heaven lose his temper." Wei Chong silently nodded his head. It seems like Brett had truly angered this cold cat. How is he stronger than me? Absolute Heaven questioned. His pair of eyes were about to pop out, and his handsome face was incomparably fierce. Brett's eyes slightly narrowed. He knows to protect me. What about you? Absolute Heaven's expression changed. He was unable to refute Brett's words. For so many years he had never treated Brett well, and the words he spoke the most were rejection. Looking at Absolute Heaven's hesitant face, Brett suddenly felt a little sour in his heart, but he did not say anything. However, right now Do Fusher was about to say something. Did you see what the beauty said just now? She said that he knew to protect her, and her manliness was bursting. Do Fusher once again performed a magnificent feat, shocking everyone present. Brat, where are you from? Do you know who I am? Do Fusher pushed Absolute Heaven, who was in a daze, onto the sofa and sat down. Elvi Liang, who was watching from the back, raised her thumb. This is a real man, wanting a beauty more than his life. Yi Hong felt that there was nothing wrong with Do Fusher's fierce words. Meanwhile, Zishan and the others were dumbstruck and covered their mouths. Absolute Heaven was actually pushed down by Do Fusher. He even dared to be so arrogant. Can't he be more low profile? Yi Hua felt that there was nothing wrong with Do Fusher pushing down Absolute Heaven. This Absolute Heaven still needs a beating to wake him up. When Brett saw Absolute Heaven being pushed down by Do Fusher, he felt great in his heart. Absolute Heaven, to think that you would have such a day. Fusher, let's go and get a room. Brett stood up while holding on to Do Fusher's arm. He even said something like getting a room, wanting to anger Absolute Heaven to death. Do Fusher felt that happiness came too suddenly. Didn't we agree to put on an act? Why did we end up getting a room right after putting on an act? Could it be that this is one of the benefits from the mission? Boss treats me too well. I worship him in my heart. I know of a hotel that has a pretty good waterbed. Do Fusher revealed an evil smile. In Absolute Heaven's eyes, Do Fusher was simply an unpardonable criminal. I'll listen to you, Brett said sweetly, as if she was allowing Do Fusher to bully her. Do Fusher actually hugged onto Brett's slender waist. This action of Do Fusher's was rather worrying. Do Fusher was afraid that Brett wouldn't be able to endure it, and would end up King Do Fusher. Fortunately, for the sake of Absolute Heaven, Brett didn't say anything and even maintained a smile on her face, and even called Do Fusher sweetly. This caused Do Fusher to feel extremely happy. This voice sounds so good. It's so coquettish that I can't stand it anymore. I wonder if it will be even better when we get to the hotel. Stop right there. Absolute Heaven shouted out coldly. The people in the coffee shop looked towards Do Fusher's direction once again. There were even a few martial artists who had 1 star imprinted on their chests, curiously sizing up Do Fusher and Do Fusher. Do Fusher stopped his footsteps, then said in a low voice, "This ex-boyfriend of yours is really hateful." "That's right, can you help me hit him? I will let you feel better in a while," Brett said tenderly. Do Fusher's expression immediately became excited. Just based on that last sentence. I will climb a mountain of swords and dive into a sea of flames. Do Fusher could be seen once again performing a shocking feat. This time, even Yi Hua was stupefied. Do Fusher turned around and walked towards Absolute Heaven. When Absolute Heaven saw Do Fusher walking towards Do Fusher, Absolute Heaven was currently pondering whether or not he should disobey his honor's order and kill off this damned man. Bang! Just as Absolute Heaven was pondering, a punch actually landed onto his face. Chapter 581. The speed at which Fusher punched out was not fast, as if he was a normal person. However, it was precisely because of this that his punch landed fiercely on Absolute Heaven's face. Bang bang. Absolute Heaven never thought that this man would really dare to hit him. Brett had also never expected that Absolute Heaven would actually not dodge. However, he still felt very satisfied in his heart. Well fought. Yi Hua and the others started to admire Zhu Tian. For you to be able to land a punch on Zhu Tian, it means that your courage has already passed the test. Yi Hua said to Wei Chong. If Do Fusher is still alive, after this matter is over, just take him in. This subordinate obeys. Wei Chong said respectfully. Lai Gu mumbled. I haven't even slapped Zhu Tian's face before. Do Fusher felt very good. He raised his fist and shouted. Brat! Don't think that I won't hit you just because you're handsome. Even if your boss comes, I'm not afraid. Do you know who my boss is? He's known as the Jianghu's brother Zhen. I'm afraid you'll be scared to death if I tell you. Alright, ignore him. Let's go. Brett walked over and pulled Do Fusher back. However, Absolute Heaven did not pay any attention to him. Instead, he pulled Brett into his embrace, cupped Brett's face with both hands, and kissed him. Do Fusher was stunned. You pretty boy, you actually dared to disrespect my blind date girl in front of me. Let's see if Papa doesn't beat you to death today. After saying so, Absolute Heaven raised his fist and punched towards Absolute Heaven. Unfortunately, someone was even faster than Floating Do. Brett sent Absolute Heaven flying with a single punch, and a large hole appeared in the roof. Do Fusher stared at Brett in shock. You're even more vicious than me. You've even sent someone flying. Yi Hua sighed. This Zhu Tian's guts are not small, to directly kiss me just like that. Brett can already be considered to be good if he only punched me once. Those one-star martial artists weren't calm at all. They thought that it was just a fight between ordinary people, but they didn't expect it to be so powerful. One punch was enough to send someone flying into the sky. Brett wiped his lips, and his face turned slightly red. He cursed Absolute Heaven for being shameless in his heart. He actually forcefully kissed me. Bastard. Brimming with anger, Brett stomped on the ground, causing it to crack. Then he shot out like a rocket. Seeing this, Do Fusher also followed. That damned man actually dared to take advantage of my blind date. Later, I'll let him see my own strength. I'm the famous gold raiding captain. Finding dragons and exploring caves is as easy as flipping my hand. These main characters had all changed locations, and Yi Hua and the others also followed along and changed locations. The good show had just begun. Absolute Heaven versus Brett. Brett, who had soared into the sky, stood in the void, coldly looking at Absolute Heaven. Do you know what you were doing just now? I know, it feels really good. Absolute Heaven's lips were still stained with some lipstick, but at this moment, Absolute Heaven felt really good. Brett was even angrier, and was ready to teach this damned man a lesson. Stop. Floating World arrived late. Who asked them to fly so high? He had only managed to climb up after much difficulty. When Brett saw that Do Fusher had arrived, his brows furrowed. Brett, let me. After saying that, Do Fusher took out his peachwood sword, bit his finger, and smeared his blood on the wooden sword. Instantly, a faint red light bloomed. You pretty boy. To actually dare to bully my woman. Don't you know whose underling I am? If you wait for my big brother to come, I'll tell you, you will be finished. It's too early for you to admit defeat now. Do Fusher stood behind Brett, pointed his sword towards Absolute Heaven, and shouted out loudly. Looking at that serious look on Do Fusher's face, he doesn't seem to be joking. Absolute Heaven sighed in his heart. He somewhat understood his honor's meaning, but where did his honor find such a weirdo? She is my woman. Do you understand? Absolute Heaven didn't want to talk too much with Do Fusher. After all, Do Fusher was the one who was called over by his honor. That punch I gave Brett just now can be considered as me letting Brett feel good. Do Fusher shouted out coldly. What, your woman? Stop boasting shamelessly. If you still don't admit defeat, I'm going to call you Big Brother. My big brother's big brother is even more powerful. My big brother's big brother is unrivaled. It's not that I'm boasting, but I can kill you with just a flick of my finger. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched. This Do Fusher is really good at boasting. You can leave, Absolute Heaven said faintly. Do Fusher looked at Absolute Heaven in disbelief. You are actually not afraid? Let me tell you. I am going to call my big brother over right now. After speaking, Do Fusher really took out his phone and called Death Mage. However, Death Mage's phone was already switched off. Sorry, the number that you have dialed is currently switched off. Do Fusher was a bit embarrassed. He took a look at Brett, then looked at Absolute Heaven, then said, Don't be anxious, my big brother is very busy, let me call a few more people. Death Mage, who was standing in the group, was speechless. Even I am going to call my big brother Absolute Heaven. And you are still calling me over. Don't you know that this will make things even more awkward? Little friend, you can go back now. There is nothing else for you to do here. Absolute Heaven said lightly. Do Fusher was angered. To actually call me little friend. There is a beauty by my side. I cannot lose my face. Just you wait. I am going to call my sister-in-law. You are finished. The corner of Sun Fang's mouth twitched. Then she immediately took out her phone and switched off her phone. When the people at the side saw Sun Fang's action, they took a look at Do Fusher, who was in the middle of the stage, and suddenly felt that Do Fusher was very pitiful. Hello, the number that you have dialed is currently switched off. Do Fusher's face darkened. Why did the two of them switch off their phones? They are the kings of the game. They don't even leave their phones. After a long while, Do Fusher forced a smile and said, My big brother and sister-in-law are definitely busy with something. I will stand at the side and wait for a while. You will be in for a good show. This Do Fusher was rather smart. After realizing that the other party was stronger than him, he immediately called his big brother. Because the other party was able to charge up to the cloud layer without even blushing, and even got punched by Brett, while I am about to fall down from the cloud layer after running up to the cloud layer. Do Fusher's words made Yi Hua and the others look towards Death Mage and Sun Fang. That gaze of Do Fusher seemed to be asking, How did you two handle things? Sun Fang's face immediately turned red. How did I handle things? This is completely Do Fusher's own imagination. Brett, you don't have to be afraid. After my big brother and sister-in-law are done with their matters, they will come over. Do Fusher turned his head around and said seriously, As a man, I should protect my woman properly. Brett said coldly, Stand at the side. Ah. Stand at the side. Don't you understand? Brett's beautiful eyes turned cold, scaring Do Fusher to the point that he shivered. Why does this woman suddenly change? Just a moment ago, she was still treating me like that, and now, she is acting like this. Do Fusher pitifully walked to the side, then looked at the two of them and felt extremely gloomy. How pitiful. Li Gu mumbled. Although this is just a mission, this is still too much of a blow to me. However, Do Fusher was able to endure this kind of blow. After taking a nap, I guarantee that everything will be fine. Brett, if I am able to defeat you, will you follow me? Ju Tian shouted out. Say that after you defeat me. Chapter 582. Starting a fight just because of a disagreement. This truly makes one blush with shame. But right at that moment, another voice sounded out, Stop! The two people who were about to start a fight stopped. Yi Hua, who was standing at the side, wished that he could slap the person who shouted for them to stop to death. It isn't easy for me to watch my subordinates fight. What are you guys doing here? Not only Yi Hua felt disappointed, his subordinates felt the same as well. Half of their pants were taken off, and they actually came to inspect the room. Don't you think that this is infuriating? Only 2 moon rank experts could be seen. They rushed straight over with vigilance in their eyes. The 2 people stopped in the air at the side, and one of them shouted out, "We are from the Peace Association. Fighting is prohibited in the sky above the city." Peace Association? Yihua had only heard of it, but this is the first time I have come into contact with this group of people. I wonder who this big shot of the Peace Association is. Will he come and find trouble with me? Then I will have a reason to retaliate? Just thinking about it makes me a little happy. Zhu Tian and Brett looked at the people from the Peace Association coldly, and the latter immediately felt that his heart skipped a beat. These 2 people could be counted as people from the cultivation world previously. If not, they wouldn't have a moon. Just that long, and city was in the south, and Zhu Tian had only appeared in the north, so they didn't recognize Zhu Tian at all. Fighting in the sky above the city without permission, you will be detained for 15 days. Follow us. One of the men was very arrogant. He didn't differentiate the strength of both sides at all. Do Fusher shouted out, "It is all this man's fault. That beauty is innocent." "Don't speak, you come along as well." The corner of Do Fusher's mouth slightly twitched. "You all are too indiscriminate. Who gave you all the right to do this?" "Who? You all don't have the qualifications to know. You all just need to know one thing: in the future, what the Peace Association says is the law. If anyone dares to resist, they will be killed without mercy." Yihua and the others were very surprised. I didn't expect this Peace Association to be so arrogant. They truly live up to their name. Look at those big shots from the Justice and Order Alliance. They are all very low profile. They can be dismissed with just pickled cabbage noodles. Brett snorted coldly. "What bullshit association? You all dare to shout in front of me." After finished speaking, she slapped the air. The man who didn't curse was sent flying. Judging from his height, he was at least out of the atmosphere. Why did I not say anything? And the one who slapped me was at me. Did you slap the wrong person? The man who scolded them was stunned. Who are these 2? They sent a moon-class elite flying with one slap. You all actually dare to murder a law enforcer. This is a death sentence. You all just wait. You all are finished. After finished speaking, the law enforcer turned around and ran. And he was the kind that didn't care about his life anymore. Brett snorted and a jade bow appeared in her hand. She pulled the bow and shot it. From the ground, it looked like a shooting star, exceptionally beautiful. The man died in midair without any pain. Brett, who had insulted the 7 deadly sins, did not want to live anymore. Zhu Tian froze. He didn't dare to be careless, because that arrow had once again flown back. As one of the 7 deadly sins, absolute heaven knew of Bright's weakness. Bright was extremely afraid of getting into close combat. As long as Bright got into close combat, Bright's battle prowess would decrease by half. Just as Brett was about to let his guard down, absolute heaven displayed his abnormal speed and locked Brett in place with a retreating stance. Lai Gu exclaimed in admiration, "Your posture isn't bad." The girls at the side couldn't help but roll their eyes at Lai Gu. In Lai Gu's eyes, everything has a different meaning. When Do Fusher saw this, he was stunned as well. He felt that he didn't have enough spirit chi. Beauty. Hold on, I will go and call Big Brother. After finished speaking, Do Fusher helplessly descended from the sky. If not, he would have to freefall and fall from the sky. Zhu Tian tightly held onto Brett, and at this moment, Brett's weakness was revealed. The golden arrow was flying towards the 2 of them. Is Brett planning to perish together with Yihua? Yihua's expression became a bit grave, and the people at the back also became nervous. The relaxed atmosphere immediately became heavy. F***K, have these 2 people gone mad? Lai Gu couldn't help but shout out. Yihua didn't say anything. Brett should be trying to scare Zhu Tian. Zhu Tian hugged onto Brett tightly and said beside Brett's ear, "If death can make you forgive me, I am willing." Zhu Tian, "Even if you die, I will not forgive you," Brett shouted out, and the golden arrow immediately shone with a bright light. The golden arrow flew towards the 2 of them while emitting a terrifying aura. Yihua swallowed his saliva. What is this Zhu Tian planning to do? Right now, Yihua was considering whether he should make a move or not. If an accident were to occur, it would be hard to say what would happen. After all, Brett's jade bow was no joke. After charging up its power, It would be able to instantly kill an overlord. Seeing that the golden arrow was getting closer and closer to the two of them, Brett had already closed her beautiful eyes. My heart is tired. I am really tired. If I die like this, his honor won't force me to get married, and I will be able to make Ju Tian suffer for the rest of his life. Thinking about it, it is quite worth it. How could Ju Tian possibly let Brett die? He knew that Brett would definitely not stop until he got his revenge. Therefore Ju Tian suddenly threw Brett, who was in his embrace, away. The golden arrow that carried along the aura of death pierced through Ju Tian's abdomen, and a fist-sized hole appeared on Ju Tian's abdomen. Yi Hua was stupefied. Everyone was stupefied. Brett was also stupefied. As one of the 7 deadly sins, even if it was an overlord's weapon, it would be hard for them to injure each other. Furthermore, Brett had charged up his power for this attack, and it wasn't as simple as just a stab. Absolute Heaven violently spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body sank into darkness as he fell from the sky. Brett just stared blankly. It was as if he had been struck by lightning, and his head was buzzing. There was no longer any meaning in hiding. All of them revealed themselves. Yi Hua hurriedly stabilized Ju Tian, who was falling to the ground. The wound on Ju Tian's abdomen was extremely terrifying, and it was currently corroding Ju Tian's body. Without much time to think, Yi Hua immediately brought Ju Tian back to Leisure Bar. If Ju Tian doesn't receive treatment soon, he might die. When everyone returned to the Leisure Bar, none of them spoke a word. Brett was still in a dazed state as he foolishly looked at Absolute Heaven, who was on the table. Yi Hua took out all of the healing medicines, such as Clear Soul Condensing Pill, 6 Inchi Returning Pill, Supreme Spirit Gathering Pill, Sky Bewitching Ganoderma Grass, and so on. Suihan Buddha Chaos Pagoda. An exquisite pagoda could be seen appearing in Yi Hua's hand, and the pagoda slowly floated onto Ju Tian's body. The pagoda then emitted a Buddha's light that shone onto Ju Tian's body. Meanwhile, Ju Tian slowly changed back to his original form. A cat with strange fur laid powerlessly on the table. However, his chest was still moving up and down, causing everyone to let out a breath of relief. It's good that he didn't die. Your Honor, Ju Tian is here? Wei Chang asked respectfully. Thanks to my brothers for the tickets? Chapter 583. Yi Hua took a look at Brett, then said gravely, "This attack nearly took his life. Right now, we can only protect him. Maybe in a few hundred or even a few thousand years, they will be able to take human form." Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. They didn't expect it to be so serious. Brett fainted on the spot when he heard this. To be able to make Brett of the 7 deadly sins faint, what kind of blow was this? Yi Hua shook his head. I really didn't expect that Absolute Heaven would be willing to die to save Brett. Ju Tian's situation was different from Zishan and Yihong's situation, where Ju Tian only needed a strand of Wei Chang's black mist to be able to revive them. Ju Tian's strength was terrifying, and even Yi Hua could only temporarily preserve Ju Tian's life. If Ju Tian were to be injured a second time, even Yi Hua wouldn't be able to save Ju Tian. Yi Zizi suddenly came down from upstairs. She looked at Absolute Heaven, who was on the verge of death, before looking at Brett, who had fainted. Yi Zizi shook her head. She then carried Absolute Heaven in her arms and walked upstairs. This stupid cat was actually willing to die for a woman. It was really embarrassing. Yi Hua sat on the high chair and didn't say anything as he drank his wine. All of the subordinates did not dare to make a sound, and just stood there obediently. As for Zishan and Tang Wei, both of them were supporting Brett, who had fainted. No one had expected such a thing to happen. Absolute Heaven was actually prepared to die. This was even more unimaginable, especially for Wei Chang and Lai Gu. Absolute Heaven didn't seem like the kind of man who would die for love. In the past, he didn't even put women in his eyes. Only now did they realize that Absolute Heaven was just putting on an act. In fact, Absolute Heaven had long since had Brett in his heart. It was only because of his pride that he did not accept it. Now that he was almost gone, what was the point of keeping his face? If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have acted in the first place. After a while, Brett faintly woke up. When he saw that Absolute Heaven had disappeared from the table, Leaving behind only a pool of blood, he immediately started crying loudly. His heart-wrenching appearance made it seem as if his husband had just died. Enough. What are you crying for? You aren't dead yet. Yihua wrinkled his brows and shouted out coldly. It's fine to just scare me a little. But you actually got serious. Now you know regret. Your Honor, I'm sorry. Hearing that Ju Tian was still alive, Brett calmed down quite a bit and hurriedly apologized. What's the use of apologizing to me? Are you satisfied with absolute heaven's current state? I've already lowered my head to you, but you're still so stubborn. Yihua shouted out angrily. If it was according to Yihua's temper in the past, I would have given Brett a few slaps right now. Brett is too insensible. Brett powerlessly kneeled onto the ground, and one after another, tears fell onto the ground. Right now, I am already regretting. People only know how to cherish when they have lost something. When Yihang looked at Brett, she thought of herself and Zishan. It would be great if big brother Ju Tian could be saved like me. But, Wei Chong, go and inform Ju Tian's family. Yihua said gravely. After such a big matter happened, I still have to inform Ju Tian's family. Yes. Wei Chong disappeared from Leisure Bar and brought Dongfang Yu'er and Guan Yanxin with him. The two still didn't know what was going on, and they respectfully knelt down and shouted out, We pay our respects to your honor. Get up. Yihua said gravely. Dongfang Yu'er and Guan Yanxin stood up and realized that the atmosphere was not right. There were bloodstains on the table beside them, and Brett was sobbing on the floor. Moreover, Absolute Heaven's figure was nowhere to be seen. A bad premonition lingered in the minds of the two women. Absolute Heaven is injured. He needs to rest here for a period of time. Yihua lit up a stick of cigarette and said gravely, I really don't know when Absolute Heaven will recover. Dongfang Yu'er and Guan Yanxin didn't dare to believe that Absolute Heaven would be injured. He is the subordinate of a supreme overlord, who would be able to injure him. Unless, the two women looked towards Brett, who was sobbing on the floor. Your Honor, is Absolute Heaven still all right? Guan Yanxin's red lips trembled, and her beautiful face tensed up. His life is hanging by a thread. Yihua could only describe Absolute Heaven's situation like this. Hearing that, Guan Yanxin paused for a moment. My entire family was killed, and right now even Absolute Heaven is about to die. Such a blow caused Guan Yanxin to immediately fall backwards. Dongfang Yu'er looked weak, but she didn't fall backwards like Guan Yanxin. Instead, she turned her head around and looked towards Brett. Everyone looked at the weak Dongfang Yu'er walking towards Brett. In the past, when Dongfang Yu'er saw Brett, she would appear to be afraid, but right now, Dongfang Yu'er didn't have any fear at all. Standing in front of Brett, Dongfang Yu'er raised her arm high up. Everyone didn't say anything. This time, Brett had indeed gone too far. This Dongfang Yu'er almost lost her man, who would believe that she wasn't angry. However, Dongfang Yu'er's slap did not land on Yihua's face. Instead, tears flowed down from Dongfang Yu'er's face. Why are you so heartless? Absolute Heaven likes you so much, and yet you still want to injure him. Why? Say something. Dongfang Yu'er shook Brett's shoulder, and a sense of desolation pervaded the air. Brett didn't reply and said in a low voice, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. I also didn't want this to happen. Hearing what Yihua said, Dongfang Yu'er sat on the floor paralyzed and cried bitterly. I already told you all that Absolute Heaven Overlord isn't dead yet. Are you crying for me? Yihua shouted out angrily and threw the cigarette, but onto the floor. Seeing that his honor was angry, everyone lowered their heads and didn't dare to say anything. In actuality, the one who was the most vexed was Yihua. He had planned this out of good intentions, yet, I didn't expect that one of my men would almost die. This is simply lifting a rock and smashing it on my own feet. In the future, I will never do such a wicked thing again. This is retribution. Suddenly, a ray of white light flashed across the bar, and Qinya and Donghuang Baiji appeared. Seeing her husband and subordinates standing together, a woman fainting, and two women sitting on the floor crying, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji looked very puzzled. Subordinates pay respect to the two madams. Everyone shouted out respectfully. Even Brett and Dongfang Yu'er shouted out while choking with sobs. This What happened? Chinya walked over and asked. Yihua didn't expect that his wife would actually rush over and said faintly, "It's nothing, something happened to Ju Tian." Something happened to Ju Tian? Donghuang Baiji became even more puzzled. Your subordinates are so formidable, how could something happen to them? Seeing how Brett and Dongfang Yuer were crying so miserably, it seems like it isn't a small matter. Did he meet with a strong enemy? Chinya asked gravely. What strong enemy? It was all because of me. Wei Chang, speak. I don't want to speak anymore. Yihua was very gloomy. I lost a powerful general in such a short period of time. Don't you think that I am angry? Yes. Wei Chang responded, then said gravely, today His Honor arranged for Ju Tian and Brett to meet. Yihua. After hearing what Yihua said, Chinya and Donghuang Baiji more or less understood what was going on. Both of them looked towards their man at the same time. Aren't you worrying for nothing? After hearing what Yihua said, he felt even more so. Seeing the unkind gaze of his two wives, Yihua changed the topic and asked, why did you two suddenly come over? Chapter 584. Ali and Yenner disappeared again? Yihua exclaimed. From this sentence, it could be seen that this wasn't the first time the two little fellows disappeared. When they had nothing to do, they would hide and let the adults worry about them. Right now they couldn't do anything about it. If you scold them, they would cry, and the next day, they would continue playing hide and seek with you. However, Chinya and Donghuang Baiji weren't too worried right now. After all, Ali had displayed his strength in the past, and he was very strong. Even if he brought his little brother to play, it would be fine. In the beginning, Chinya was still very worried. After all, Yenner was still so young. However, after that, she became speechless. Basically, she could only see her son at night, and he would disappear during the day. Ever since Donghuang Li had her little brother, it was the same. Donghuang Baiji could only see her daughter at night, unless she locked the two little fellows up. She tried to lock the two little fellows up, but it was very quickly solved by them. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That's right, the sun is about to set and he still hasn't returned. Chinya shook her head. My son is even more mischievous than I imagined. Yihua was very relieved. You two don't have to worry so much, he will come back sooner or later, nothing will happen. Chinya said. How old is he? And he is already like this. What will happen in the future? That's right, Ali is the same now. Donghuang Baiji shook her head. In the past, Ali was so obedient and sensible, but now that he has a playmate, his mischievous personality came out. Yihua said gravely. Then, I will lock them up next time. Don't, there will be shadows. What else could Yihua do? These two women always do whatever they say. Alright, you all can disperse first. Ju Tian will be fine after he recuperates. Brett, you will stay at Ju Tian's place for the next few days. Yihua arranged carefully. If Ju Tian isn't around, Dongfang family will be in a bit of danger. Letting Brett go over to Ju Tian's place was firstly to take care of him, and secondly to get along well with them. In the future, Ju Tian will be able to enjoy the bliss of having two wives. Just like Lai Gu 3. I only have two, and you two actually have one more than me. Your Honor, can I take a look at Ju Tian? Brett said pleadingly. Right now, Brett was no longer as cold and arrogant as before. What are you looking at? Isn't it messy enough? Ju Tian and Dongfang Yu? Brett didn't dare to go against Yihua's will, and Dongfang Yuan also didn't dare to go against Yihua's will. Everyone returned to their own positions, and Yihua drank the wine in his hand. Let's go. Let's go find those two little fellows. They're getting bolder and bolder. Yihua, you need to calm down. It's not like they did it on purpose. Chinya and Donghuang Baiji hurriedly held on to the man, fearing that Yihua would start beating the man up. Yihua turned his head around and asked gravely, weren't you guys the one who wanted to go and look for him? Weren't you the ones who wanted to teach them a lesson? Were they going to look for it? Are you going to fight or not? Chinya hurriedly comforted her husband. The children are still young. They like to play outside, calm down. That's right, with Ali looking after the child. How could anything go wrong? Dong Huang Baiji also joined in, fearing that Yihua would hit the child. Meanwhile, Yihua laughed in his heart. Ali Yin father can only help you to this point. Be at ease and have fun. Your mother won't come and look for you. In the desert in the north, two small figures were playing on a sand dune. They were precisely Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan who had sneaked out. As for how they managed to sneak out, they naturally relied on Ali's teleportation. It came out with a Bayu sound. Big sister, do you think that daddy will be able to stall mommy? Yi Yan was sitting on the skateboard, and Dong Huang Li was standing behind him. Don't worry, daddy is formidable, we will be able to play more today. Dong Huang Li said with a sweet smile, then rubbed onto her little brother's head. Yi Yan patted his chest. Moms are too scary. Sister is still the best. Quickly push Yin. Alright Yin, sit tight, I'll push you. Okay, Dong Huang Li lightly pushed Yi Yan, and Yi Yan sat on the skateboard and slid down from the sand dune. Yi Yan was screaming, and he seemed to be having a great time. Sliding down, Yi Yan shouted, Sister, come down quickly. Alright. Dong Huang Li waved her hand, then slid down from the sand dune. Looking at his sister's valiant demeanor, Yi Yan clapped his hands and shouted, Sister is so awesome. Dong Huang Li patted on her butt. Of course, if not, how can I be your big sister? Haha, big sister, let's go play with the big crab. Those aren't called crabs, those are scorpions and rattlesnakes. Dong Huang Li taught attentively. Yi Yan felt that his brain wasn't enough to understand what Dong Huang Li was thinking. Yi Yan laughed foolishly. Big sister is still the best. Yin'er is unable to remember. Let big sister teach you then. Alright, Dong Huang Li clapped her hands and shouted, Xiao Yi, quickly come out. Along with Dong Huang Li's shout, the ground started shaking. It seemed like there was a huge monster underneath the sand. A whirlpool could be seen suddenly appearing, and a huge monster suddenly jumped out from the sand pit. The huge monster had 2 rows of antennae. If one had trypophobia, one would definitely vomit upon seeing those antennae. Furthermore, those eyes of the centipede looked just like scales that were reflecting light. However, when the huge centipede saw the 2 little fellows, it seemed like it was trembling a bit. This story needs to be told from half a month ago. That day was sunny, and the centipede was basking in the sun. Suddenly, the centipede heard the conversation of humans on its back. Insignificant humans actually dare to ride on the centipede's back. They must be tired of living. 1 minute later, the centipede ran away in a hurry. This is simply too cruel, inhumane. This was just the beginning. In the past 10+ days, the centipede was played by the 2 siblings like a husky. Yi Yan even forced the centipede to bark like a dog, and he even demonstrated how to bark like a dog. Yen'er, this is a crab. Dong Huang Li said proudly. Looking at the look of worship on her little brother's face, I feel great. Finally, there is someone who worships me. Xiao Air. Xiao San. Xiao Si. Boom, boom, boom. The surface of the sand shook once again. A huge scorpion, a huge rattlesnake, and a lizard that looked just like Godzilla appeared. Although the 3 of them had ferocious looks on their faces, when they saw the even more ferocious pair of siblings, they didn't dare to move at all. Dong Huang Li began teaching her little brother how to recognize animals. Even if Dong Huang Li said something wrong, they still had to nod their heads. This is truly painful. Which family's brat is this? Hurry up and take him away. Don't come and bring harm to the world. Right now, the sky was gradually getting dark. Adding family, which was located in the south. Jingshan followed Death Mage's order, and began releasing the first wave of ancient godly shards. This was a jade flute that belonged to Hitian back then. This time, the jade flute was finally put to use. After splitting the jade flute into 3 pieces, Jingshan coughed lightly, and threw the 3 pieces into the sky. Then a huge amount of spiritual energy shot out from his finger. The spiritual energy made the ancient godly shard shine brightly, then flew towards 3 different directions. Chapter 585. After doing all that, Jingshan laughed lightly and returned to his family, waiting for the good news to come. When the 3 white lights appeared in the dark night, they looked so unique and bright. When everyone saw the 3 white lights, Their eyes were filled with astonishment. When many cultivators saw this, they immediately chased after the 3 white lights. These are definitely treasures that fell from the sky. Among them, there was also Xian Ba, who joined the Peace Association. He had also left the jurisdiction of the big shots because it was too hard to stand out. There were more opportunities in a new place. Just like what Xian Ba thought, Xian Ba was recognized by the Peace Association and was now a middle-level manager. In the future, he might even become a high-level manager. In the Justice and Order Alliance, everyone saw it too, but they were not interested. Big Brother Qing, what is that? Wang Debao raised his head and asked curiously. Qing Tiandi licked the ice cream. It's probably a fragment of an ancient godly item. What? An ancient godly item needs to be broken into 3 pieces? Isn't this too weird? Feng Di couldn't help but ridicule. Right now, he really doesn't like this kind of weapon anymore. Feng Di leaned on the door and said faintly, "To us this isn't much, but to some newcomers this is a treasure." In that case, the appearance of an ancient godly item's fragment will cause a commotion? Wang Debao muttered. Qing Tiandi held the ice cream in his mouth and poked it back and forth. "That's right, Chen Xuanzong. Don't you want to take a look?" "Take a look at what?" Chen Xuanzong sat on a chair at the side and asked faintly. "Of course, I want to inquire about the situation and see how it develops so that we can plan our next step." Qing Tiandi licked his lips. "This ice cream is pretty good." Chen Xuanzong nodded his head and followed behind a white light. "By Cixin, how many people did we recruit recently?" Qing Tiandi asked faintly. All the big and small matters in the Justice and Order Alliance were managed by Bai Cixin. This greatly satisfied Bai Cixin's vanity, and she felt that she was no different from Voidless Realm's Empress. In terms of numbers, she even had the advantage. In the past week, we recruited 100,000 newcomers. Bai Cixin felt very good. Every day, she would sit on the main seat and enjoy everyone's worship. That kind of feeling was incomparable. On the other hand, Wang Debao was feeling great too. He could see his wife standing high above him, and he could play with her every night. It was so exciting. Qing Tiandi laughed. "Right now, we are just waiting for an opportunity. When the time comes, we will be able to make a move against Voidless Realm." "What opportunity?" Bai Cixin also wanted to make a move against Voidless Realm, because Voidless Realm was the one who chased her out of the north and turned her into a stray dog. "I also don't know." Qing Tiandi spread out his hands. He really didn't know. Bai Cixin was speechless. She turned around and walked into the room. Wang Debao followed. "Time to sleep with my wife." At this moment, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan had already left the land of yellow sand and arrived at the nearest city. "Sister, I want to eat fries." Yi Yan rubbed his stomach and pulled his sister back, looking at the KFC beside them. Dong Huangli also licked her lips. "Speaking of which, it has been a long time since I last ate something like this." Moreover, he was hungry after playing for so long. But what could he do without money? "Little brother, let's go back and eat," Dong Huangli suggested. "The sky is already dark. If we still don't go back, my mother will get worried." Yi Yan was a little greedy. He bit his finger and said, "Sister, let's eat before we go back." "But big sister doesn't have money." Dong Huangli felt helpless. As the daughter of a supreme overlord, she was actually put in a difficult position by money. Sure enough, like father like daughter, both of them lack money. Sniff, 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 big sister. Yi Yan held onto Dong Huangli's hand and shook it, acting extremely cute. Dong Huangli couldn't do anything about it. After all, she was the big sister. Ali could be seen pulling her little brother to the side. And when they reappeared, the 2 little beggars appeared. "Yener, later on, you will be in charge of crying. I will be in charge of shouting." "Understood." Yi Yan nodded his head vigorously. "This is fun." After finished speaking, the 2 of them sat at the entrance of the KFC. The 2 little actors immediately started acting. "Wah!" Yi Yan cried out loudly. His loud and clear cry could be heard even from a few streets away. Dong Huangli shouted out loudly, "We are so pitiful. We have no parents since we were young, and we are all alone. My little brother is going to starve to death soon. He is so pitiful." If the 2 of them were to be seen by Yi Hua and the others, they would definitely be stupefied. Especially that sentence about them having no parents. It seems like the two of you just jumped out from a crack in a rock. Yi Yan's painful cries coupled with Ali's sweet shouts immediately attracted a lot of onlookers. Some people took out their phones to record the scene and uploaded it onto TikTok. What a pitiful pair of siblings. Seeing that the money in front of them was getting more and more, the two of them began to work harder and harder. This is simply a tragic world that we are living in. Thank you, kind-hearted person. I will bring my little brother to eat something first. He is going to starve to death soon. Dong Huangli hurriedly stuffed the money into her clothes, then pulled Yi Yan and walked into the KFC. Although the two of them were queuing up, there were still a lot of big brothers and big sisters who were filming the scene at the side, hoping that their accounts would become popular. When the time comes, they would have a lot of fans, and it wouldn't be a dream for them to become internet celebrities and earn money. The two of them didn't mind the scene, and continued to queue up. However, the two of them weren't tall enough, and Dong Huangli could only carry her little brother on her shoulders. Even if Dong Huangli was able to carry her little brother on her shoulders, Yi Yan was only able to look at the counter with his eyes. Big sister, I want hamburgers, I want Coke, I want chicken wings, I want ice cream, I want fries, I want 2 servings of all of them. Yi Yan took the money that the big sister handed over to him, and threw it onto the counter. I only have this much, can you hurry up? Big sister and I are going to starve to death soon. The waitress was moved by Yi Yan's cuteness. The money that Yi Yan bought is definitely enough, and the waitress even returned quite a bit of the money. Not long later, all the delicious food was served, and the waitress even brought the food over. Yi Yan stood on the chair, while Dong Huangli sat on the chair. The two of them began stuffing food into their mouths, looking as if they hadn't eaten for tens of days. Seeing how pitiful the two of them were, a lot of kind-hearted people also bought some food and sent it over. The two of them thanked the waitress over and over again. 1 hour later, the two of them finally ate their fill and walked out of the KFC with big stomachs. Big sister, if Yenner dies from eating too much, don't tell father and mother, it's so embarrassing. Yi Yan let out a breath, I'm so full. Dong Huangli was the same as well. It has been a long time since I last ate so much. Looking at the oil stain on the corner of her little brother's mouth, Dong Huangli stretched out her hand and wiped off the oil stain on the corner of her little brother's mouth. If that's the case, big sister will accompany Yan, and die from eating too much. Big sister is the best, Yi Yan shouted out happily. If one were to say who Yi Yan liked the most, the number 1 would be big sister, the number 2 would be father, and the number 3 would be mother. If Qingya were to know the order in which her sons were ranked, she would definitely be angered to the point that she vomited blood. In order to give birth to you, I almost died, and in the end, I even had to rank mother 3rd, how sad. However, 3 white lights that suddenly appeared attracted the two of them's gaze. Chapter 586. So beautiful. Looking at the night sky, Yi Yan muttered. Dong Huangli was also captivated. That's right, it's so beautiful. There seems to be a lot of people following us. Do you see that, sister? Yi Yan hurriedly pulled his sister's hand as if he had discovered a new continent. Dong Huangli naturally saw it. Sister, let's go and have a look. Maybe it's something good. We can give it to mom and dad, and they will be happy. Once they are happy, they won't blame us for returning late. Yenner is so smart, quickly let big sister give you a kiss. After speaking, Dong Huangli smacked her lips onto Yi Yan's face, causing Yi Yan to be extremely happy. Big sister, quickly bring Yenner and fly away, we are going to be gone soon. Okay Yenner, hold on tight to big sister, yes. After finished speaking, the two siblings disappeared from where they were, and their speed was so fast that it made people speechless. The people that were observing the two siblings rubbed their eyes. How did they suddenly disappear? Where did they go? Of course it appeared next to white light. Wow, is this a treasure? Yi Yan looked at the shining jade flute at the side and said, take it. We're going to find something else. Alright, Yi Yan's small hand grabbed onto the jade flute, and the white light disappeared. The people following behind were dumbfounded. Why did they suddenly disappear? Some even rubbed their eyes. However, a lot of people chased after the other ray of white light. However, just when they chased after the other ray of white light, the ray of white light disappeared as well. Everyone had stupefied expressions on their faces once again, and they didn't know what to do. Just what is going on? It disappeared just like that. Seeing the last ray of white light, everyone rushed over without any regard for their lives. Then, gone again. A few thousand people could be seen standing in the sky, looking left and right, and then, holy shit! You're from the Justice Alliance. Holy shit! They're from your peace association. A fight broke out at the slightest disagreement. Colorful rays of light shone in the air. It was very lively. In the small forest below, the two little fellows were looking at the treasures they had picked up. Sister, it's broken. It's definitely not something good. Yi Yan was very disappointed. After all, it turned out to be a broken one. He wanted to bring it back for his parents to be happy. Yan, don't be disappointed. Watch me. Dong Huangli could be seen neatly arranging the 3 sections of the jade flute, then condensed a strand of spiritual energy onto her small hand, then started moving the jade flute. Wow, big sister, it's starting to close up. Yi Yan clapped his hands excitedly. Big sister is still the best. Yaner can only look up to big sister. The 3 pieces of the jade flute closed with a loud bang, emitting an enormous pressure and green light. The people fighting above immediately stopped and looked at the small forest below. Yi Yan held the jade flute in his hand and looked at it curiously. He even knocked on the tree. Sister, this is a small green stick, it's not very useful. Yan, this is for you to brag about. Dong Huangli laughed lightly. Little brother is so cute, so cute. Just as Yi Yan was about to blow, banging sounds came from the surroundings. Countless figures descended from the sky with all kinds of weapons in their hands, staring at the siblings like tigers watching their prey. The jade flute in that little fellow's hand was actually a legendary primordial godly item. It had to be those 3 streaks of white light, but why did they fall into the hands of these 2 children? Chen Xuanzong also saw Dong Huangli. Why does she look so familiar? Where have I seen her before? Back then, during the martial arts competition, Dong Huangli appeared on the stage. Just that right now, Dong Huangli's face was very dirty, making it impossible to see her original appearance. However, Chen Xuanzong wasn't interested in the primordial godly item. He just wanted to see what would happen. Xian Ba, who was in the group, was also incomparably shocked. How did the primordial godly item fall into the hands of these 2 children? Should I snatch it over? However, snatching something that belongs to children seems a bit inappropriate. Yi Yan asked his big sister curiously. I haven't even played the flute. Why did so many people come? They are all bad people. Dong Huangli began teaching her little brother on behalf of her father. Oh, so they are the bad people that Daddy and Mommy talked about. Yener understands. Yi Yan nodded his head. So bad people all look like this. How am I supposed to differentiate them? Xian Ba could be seen walking out from the group with a smile on his face. Little friend, we are not bad people. Only bad people would say that they are not bad people. They are trying to deceive little children. Yi Yan pouted his small mouth and said angrily. Dong Huangli, who was at the side, looked at everyone vigilantly, prepared to protect her little brother at any moment. However, in the eyes of these people, Dong Huangli felt that Dong Huangli was very cute and very brave. Xian Ba, is this how your peace association bullies little children? A person could be seen standing out from the group of Justice and Justice Alliance, and shouted out while pointing at Xian Ba. However, his footsteps were slowly approaching the siblings. When Chen Xuanzong saw this person, his brows wrinkled. Xian Ba's expression became tense as he shouted out, "Be careful!" The burly man leaped up and pounced towards Yi Yan. Yi Yan was greatly shocked. Picking up the jade flute in his hand, he took a deep breath, then aimed at the jade flute and fiercely blew on it. Ooh! A sound wave spread out from the jade flute, and the pressure that came from the primordial godly item immediately engulfed the surroundings. A shockwave spread out with Yi Yan as the center. The robust man who was the closest to the jade flute didn't have the slightest bit of defense, and his entire body was frozen in the air. The sound wave caused the air to distort, and blood immediately flowed out from the robust man's 5 sense organs. After twitching for a few times, the robust man fell onto the ground. Not only the robust man, everyone else was the same as well. They were completely unable to withstand the attack of the primordial godly item, and all of their eardrums were ruptured, causing blood to flow out from their mouths. Right now, Yi Yan was still young and he didn't know how to use his spiritual energy. If he were to use his spiritual energy to strengthen himself, the effect would most likely be even better. Perhaps, from that attack just now, out of the thousands of people, only a few tens of people would be left alive. Yi Yan placed down the jade flute in his hand, then looked at the robust man in front of him and asked curiously, "Big sister, what happened to him?" He fell asleep. Dong Huangli explained a little. Right now, her little brother is still young. I can't let him know about this. Is that so? Uncle sure loves to sleep. Yi Yan pursed his lips, seemingly intending to practice the jade flute again. This action of his gave everyone a fright. If he were to blow a few more times, I'm afraid that all of us will die. Little friend, if there's anything you want to say, we can talk it out. Don't blow the flute. That's right, children shouldn't blow the flute. And furthermore, it's already very late now. It wouldn't be good if we were to disturb other people's sleep. Everyone began persuading Yi Yan one after another. So this is what a primordial godly item is capable of. When it falls into the hands of an ordinary child, it already possesses such might. If I were to obtain it myself, wouldn't I be able to soar into the sky? Hearing that, Yi Yan felt that what Dong Huangli said was reasonable as he said earnestly. And we shouldn't disturb other people's sleep. Everyone immediately felt relieved. This little fellow is actually able to blow the flute. However, it's fine if I blow the flute in a lower volume. That way, I won't disturb other people. Chapter 587. Yi Yan frowned and said in a childish voice, "Do you think I'm not good at blowing?" When everyone heard this, they immediately panicked. This was simply a little ancestor. No. Little friend, you boasted so well that Uncle was mesmerized by it. That's right. It's the sound of nature. That's right, I'll fight with whoever dares to say anything bad about it. Yi Yan's face blossomed into a smile after hearing that. It turned out that she was still very smart. Alright, then I'll brag for you again. Everyone wanted to die. Why were the children nowadays like this? They were really hard to coax. Little friend, you should save such a beautiful piece of music for an important moment. That's right. The environment here is so bad. It's simply a waste. We must arrange a big theater for you to perform well. When the time comes, you will be famous all over the world. Yi Yan felt that it made sense. After all, he was his father's son. How could he lose his father's face? Sister, they said Yan boasted very well. Yi Yan was a little proud. After all, he was still a child and liked to hear others praise him. Dong Huangli patted onto her little brother's head. Of course Yan is very talented. Is that so? Yi Yan looked at the jade flute in his hand and seemed to like it. However, Dong Huangli didn't expect that because of this incident, her younger brother would become the Xiao deity in the future. The catchphrase was awesome. Believe it or not, I will blow you to death. Xian Ba really wanted the jade flute in Yi Yan's hands, but at the same time, he didn't want to hurt the children. They looked so innocent. In the end, this was Xinba's personal opinion, and it did not represent the opinion of others. This was an ancient godly item, and everyone wanted to possess it. Little friend, Uncle also has a flute here. How about we exchange? Uncle has one here too. It's prettier than his. Look, it's even glowing in different colors. Little friend, Uncle has a lollipop here. How about I exchange it with you? Yi Yan took a look at the things that the bad uncles were holding on to and pouted her small mouth. I am not a child, unless it is 2 lollipops. I am not exchanging with you. Oh. 2 lollipops, but there was only 1. What should he do? Uncle will buy it from you later, okay? Yi Yan raised his chin. Not good. The little guy was quite stubborn. He actually didn't want to trade. The uncle couldn't take it anymore and shouted at the crowd. Buy a lollipop at a high price. I'll use a spirit artifact to exchange for it. Not to mention, there really was a man who had it. Oi, I will use my spirit equipment to exchange for your lollipop. The male shouted out in a low voice. Exchanging a spirit equipment for an ancient godly item. What a good deal. The uncle's face darkened. Brother, you're too unkind. How is it unkind? Why don't we have a competition, and whoever wins gets it? Let's compete then. Do you think I'm scared of you? As the two of them spoke, they walked to the side and began a life-and-death battle for the lollipops on each other's bodies. There were also some people who wanted to wait for both sides to be injured so that they could rob them. Target. 2 lollipops. Looks like I'll have to carry more lollipops with me in the future. It's a necessary medicine to coax children. The people from the Peace Association began discussing about how to snatch Dong Huangli over. As long as we capture Dong Huangli, that child will definitely listen to us. Xianba fell into deep thought. In the end, he compromised on the condition that the child was not hurt. The people from the Peace Association shook their heads. In this dog-eat-dog world, there was no need for kindness. Otherwise, they would just be waiting to be butchered. However, Xianba was still a big boss, so everyone still had to listen to him. In actuality, Dong Huangli really wanted to learn from her father. Thinking back to the time when they were in Heaven's Palace, her father's domineering aura was truly unparalleled. However, he couldn't learn it at all. He didn't even know how to start. It was really frustrating. Just as Dong Huangli was pondering about how to imitate her father, a rope formed from spiritual energy instantly tied Dong Huangli up. Dong Huangli's expression changed. As expected of a group of bad uncles, to actually bully a child, Dong Huangli is not someone that should be provoked. A terrifying spiritual pressure erupted from Dong Huangli's small body, and the rope that was formed from spiritual energy was about to break apart. Not good. Everyone, let's go. This little girl is very strange. As he transferred his spiritual energy one after another, the situation became much more stable. F***CK. What are you people from the Righteous Alliance doing? Help me. When the people from the Righteous Alliance saw the spiritual pressure released by Dong Huangli, they were quite frightened. We didn't expect that this little girl would be so strong. We can only choose to cooperate with her and suppress her together. The spiritual energy released by over 1,000 people was very terrifying. Dong Huangli's small face became a bit sinister. These are all bad people. Yi Yan was so frightened that he started crying. Only now did he come back to his senses. Big sister, are you alright? Yener, don't cry, big sister is fine. Woo, big sister looks to be in so much pain. Yener wants to save big sister. Hearing what Yi Yan said, one of the people from the Peace Alliance shouted out, little friend, hand over the jade flute in your hand, and we will let your big sister go. That's right, hand it over, and we will let your big sister go. Without even thinking, Yi Yan threw away the jade flute that was in his hand. No matter how much I like it, it is not as important as my big sister. The jade flute drew a beautiful arc in the air. The gazes of over 1,000 people looked at the trajectory of the jade flute and immediately chased after it. At this moment, Dong Huangli also broke free from the restraint that was binding her. Big sister, I'm sorry, Yener is useless. Yi Yan immediately threw himself into his big sister's embrace and cried bitterly. I feel that I am so weak. Just now, big sister was bullied by others, and I could only watch on. Hearing that, Dong Huangli's heart ached. Be good. Yener, don't cry. Yener is still young. In the future, when Yener grows up, I will be able to protect big sister. Yi Yan was immersed in endless self-blame. Not only did he not calm down, his crying became even louder. Daddy mommy, daddy mommy, daddy mommy. Yi Yan could be seen shouting towards the sky, shaking the entire world. Even the people who were fighting over the ancient godly item at the side were startled. This little fellow is actually scared to the point of directly shouting daddy and mommy. I am truly speechless. Even if your daddy and mommy came, it would still be useless. Perhaps it was because the commotion caused by the ancient godly item was rather big. A lot of people were rushing over towards the ancient godly item. Seeing this scene, Xianba shook his head. These people have all gone mad. For the sake of the ancient godly item, They are even killing each other. I have to go back and report the situation. Chen Xuanzong didn't join in the fight, and just watched on coldly from the side. Meanwhile, Yi Yan's crying sound didn't stop at all. Yi Hua and Qingya, who were far away in Leisure Bar, felt their hearts sinking, and an overflowing killing intent immediately gushed out. Yener is actually asking me for help. Thank you, brothers, for the various tickets that you gave me. Chapter 588. Yi Hua and his two wives instantly arrived at the scene. Seeing Yan, crying in Ali's arms, the parents' hearts were about to break. Mom. Sensing that his mother had arrived, Yi Yan immediately ran over. Qingya hugged her son into her embrace, and her beautiful eyes were already red. Looking at her son's dirty little face, Qingya felt extremely heartache. Yener, be good, mother is here. Yener is so useless, unable to protect big sister. Big sister was bullied by bad uncle. Yi Yan cried out bitterly. Donghuang Baiji carried her daughter into her embrace and wiped off the dust on her daughter's face. Ali, are you injured anywhere? Hearing her mother's gentle and caring voice, Donghuang Li also started crying loudly. Ooh, Ali is so useless, I can't even protect my little brother. The big sister blamed herself for not protecting the little brother properly, and the little brother blamed himself for not protecting the big sister properly. These two little fellows are really, Yi Hua was furious. His son and daughter were bullied. As a father, how could he let this go? Do you think that ants like you can bully the child of my supreme sovereign? Daddy, I'm sorry. Dong Huangli looked at her father and said while crying. Yi Yan also shouted out, Daddy, Yener has disappointed you. Yi Hua rubbed onto the heads of the two little fellows and said gravely, both of you are good children. It is this world that is too sinister. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji coldly looked at the thousands of people who were fighting not far away from them. They wished that they could kill every single one of them. Chen Xuanzong's expression stiffened. That girl is actually the Empress's child, and the boy is actually Qingya's child. And that Long Outyan. Damn you, Long Outyan. Today I, the Devil Emperor Chen Xuanzong, shall expose your ugly face. Yi Hua looked towards the thousands of people who were fighting over there, and stretched out his palm. The jade flute could be seen flying out from one of the people's hands, and Yi Hua held it firmly in his hand. The 1,000-man team battle stopped in an instant. Yi Hua and the two women who were not far away from him. It seemed that the parents of the two children had come. Thousands of people landed on the ground, and these people who had already killed to the point that their brains were burning with passion looked at Yi Hua and shouted out, hand over the jade flute, if not, we will kill your entire family. Kill his entire family? Yi Hua's face sunk. It has always been the main overlord who gets exterminated. Do you ants even have the right to say such words? Haha. Where did this pretty boy come from? His tone isn't small at all. Wanting to kill me? You'll have to ask the blade in my hand. Yi Hua lightly clenched his fist. Kacha. The jade flute was broken and fell to the ground. A berserk aura spread out, and a blood blade appeared in Yi Hua's hand. Today, I shall be merciful. I bestow death upon you. Right after Yi Hua finished speaking, Yi Hua's figure disappeared from his original spot. Qingya covered her son's eyes, and Donghuang Baiji did the same as well. However, the two of them were very much in agreement with their husband's actions. Even if their husband didn't do it, they would have done it. Yi Hua was like a wolf that had entered into a flock of sheep. The crowd immediately let out wails, and they didn't even have the time to react before they were killed by Yi Hua. In less than half a minute, all of the 1,000 people in the group had fallen into a pool of blood. In actuality, Yi Hua could insta-kill all of them, but that wouldn't be enough. Only by imprisoning their souls in hell for all eternity would he be able to get rid of his anger. The blood blade in his hand had such an ability. Holding onto his blood blade, Yi Hua stood in the middle of the crowd like a god of slaughter, extremely terrifying. If it was in the past, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji wouldn't be able to get used to it. However, right now they felt extremely comfortable, as if Yi Hua had done something great. Keeping the blood blade, Yi Hua slowly walked towards his wife and son. This matter won't end just like this. Just wait for the Supreme Overlord's anger. Long Outyan. A voice suddenly rang out, causing the family of 5 to stop their footsteps. Yihua naturally knew that it was Chen Xuanzong. Just now he didn't kill Chen Xuanzong because he was curious about what Chen Xuanzong was planning to do. Qingye also saw Chen Xuanzong walking over, and she said doubtfully, Chen Xuanzong. Qingye, I am going to tell you a secret today. Chen Xuanzong felt great in his heart. I am going to expose this despicable and shameless Long Outyin soon. He actually disguised himself as someone else. He is truly hateful. Chen Xuanzong, just what are you planning to do? Qingye shouted out. Why are you still so stubborn? Those are all things that happened when you were young. Chen Xuanzong laughed loudly and said crazily. Qingye, you still don't know, right? This Yihua is Long Outyan's disguise. Don't be fooled by him again. Also, Empress, you have also been fooled by him. Long Outyan, what else do you have to say? You liar. Chen Xuanzong pointed at Yihua and shouted out coldly. This is truly satisfying. Finally, today has come. Qingye, don't be stubborn anymore. This demon emperor is your best choice. Even if you have a child now, this demon emperor wouldn't mind at all. I will treat the child as my own child. Yihua thought back to that Long Outyin from the very beginning. If it wasn't for Chen Xuanzong mentioning it, I would have probably forgotten about it. Chen Xuanzong, have you gone mad? What Long Outyin? Qingye felt that Chen Xuanzong had really gone mad. He actually thought that Yihua was Long Outyin. Donghuang Baiji said faintly, Chen Xuanzong, seeing that you are a northerner in the past, if you leave now, I will spare your life. Chen Xuanzong was puzzled. Just what did this Long Outyin do to make them so loyal to him? They actually don't believe in me. Look carefully, he is Long Outyin. Yihua thought that Chen Xuanzong was going to do something big. He actually mistook me as Long Outyin. Just what is this person thinking? Qingye was also very angry. She shouted out coldly, Chen Xuanzong, if you continue like this, don't blame me for disregarding our past friendship. Qingye was also afraid that Yihua would misunderstand something. After all, this fellow's jealousy is not ordinary. Qingye, why don't you believe me? I love you. This Long Outyin is just lying to you. Chen Xuanzong couldn't suppress his feelings anymore and expressed his love. Enough. Chen Xuanzong, from today onwards, I have nothing to do with you. Qingye's face turned red from anger. To actually say such words in front of my own husband and son, I have lost all my face. Hearing that, Chen Xuanzong's face turned pale, and he couldn't help but take a step back. Yihua was very displeased. To actually confess to my own wife in front of me, do you think that I am transparent? Chen Xuanzong, my wife is indeed outstanding, but only an outstanding man like me can have her. As for you, you are merely an ant under the common people. You don't even have the qualifications to kneel and lick my feet. Chen Xuanzong's face suddenly turned sinister. Long Outyin, you still like to act cool. It's hard to change a person's nature. Today, I will make you reveal your true colors. Yihua laughed, then asked gravely, what do you want to do? Long Outyin, I, Chen Xuanzong, want to challenge you to a duel. 6 shadow moons appeared in Chen Xuanzong's hand, and the 6 shadow moons were pointed towards Yihua. I will fulfill your wish. Chapter 589. Yihua had long wanted to get rid of this Chen Xuanzong. He actually has a crush on my wife. Now that the opportunity is here, Qingye won't say anything even if I get rid of this Chen Xuanzong. Even if she wants to say anything, I will just go crazy. Don't you know that I am the jealous king of the cultivation world? Qingye stood at the side and didn't say anything. If I say it now, Yihua will still think that I have something going on with Chen Xuanzong. This isn't a good thing. For the sake of family harmony, Qingye won't say anything. Qingye had already done her best to persuade this childhood friend of hers. Yet he still insisted on doing things his own way. He even said that Yihua is Long Outyin. They are clearly 2 different people. It's not like Long Outyin hasn't seen them before. Donghuang Baiji didn't care about Chen Xuanzong's life at all. If he didn't choose to support her back then, he wouldn't have said those words just now. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji carried their children and sat at the side, waiting for the result. Yihua was very satisfied with Qinya's actions. As expected of my supreme overlord's woman, at crucial times, she is still thinking from my perspective. My love for her is not in vain. Take out your weapon. Chen Xuanzong, don't kill unarmed people. Chen Xuanzong, who was holding on to 6 shadow moons, looked quite handsome. Just that he fell in love with a woman that he shouldn't love. Yihua took out a cigarette and lit it up, then took a deep breath and said faintly, "You overestimate yourself. Do I need a weapon to kill you? A cigarette is enough." Long Outyan, who asked you to act cool? Today Chen Xuanzong, am going to kill you. Chen Xuanzong shook his hands, and the 6 shadow moons in his hands immediately flew towards Yihua. As expected of an ancient divine artifact, Yihua's lips curled up slightly. He held onto the cigarette and stabbed towards the spear that was emitting a bright light. Clang! A metallic sound rang out. The cigarette butt and the spear collided and emitted a terrifying aura. Chen Xuanzong looked at the scene in front of him dumbfoundedly. This Long Outyan actually used a cigarette, but to block my ancient divine artifact. How is this possible? I have already said, I don't need a weapon to kill you. Yihua flicked the cigarette ash, then took a deep breath and breathed out a green smoke. Chen Xuanzong didn't dare to be careless. With a leap, he pulled apart the distance between them. However, a voice came from behind. What's wrong? Are you distancing yourself because you're afraid? A smell of smoke entered Chen Xuanzong's nose. Chen Xuanzong's face turned pale with fright. Although it was just a simple contact, he already knew the gap between them. Long Outyan was so strong that he could use a cigarette but to block the attack, and his speed was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. It seemed that he had to use his ultimate move to have a chance of winning. 4-way Empyrean net. Chen Xuanzong yelled and stabbed the 6 moon-shaped shadows into the ground. A terrifying aura immediately filled the air, and the huge pressure caused the sky to change color. A deafening sound of thunder resounded between the heavens and the earth, as if it was the end of the world. A ferocious spiritual pressure shot out from the spearhead and into the skies. In an instant, rays of light shot out for tens of thousands of feet, and the clouds began to spin like a vortex. A huge spearhead pierced through the clouds, bringing with it the might of heaven and earth. It was as if the entire world had stopped moving. Haha! Long Outyan, just wait for your death. You can't escape from my 4-sided sky net. Chen Xuanzong laughed wildly, as if he could already see the scene of Yihua being stabbed to death, and then he would be able to hug the beauty. Yihua let out a light sigh. This ignorant human doesn't understand my strength at all, and yet, he dares to speak such arrogant words here. Foolish. The huge spear in the sky was golden in color, and it slowly descended with surging killing intent. The entire ground was suppressed by the spiritual pressure, and all of the towering trees were crushed. The corpses in the surroundings actually turned into blood and merged with the ground. This is simply too powerful. From a visual point of view, this scene is comparable to a sci-fi blockbuster. The speed at which the huge spear descended became faster and faster, and the ground collapsed along with it. Yihua casually took a puff of his cigarette, then exhaled it towards the huge spear. In an instant, the huge spear that was insufferably arrogant just a moment ago dissipated like a bubble, as if it had never appeared in the first place. The world returned to normal. Yihua blew away my 4-sided sky net in a single breath. Chen Xuanzong's eyeballs were about to pop out. This must be fake, right? Chen Xuanzong, compared to me, you are still a bit lacking. While speaking, Yihua even used his finger to gesture. Although it was just a simple gesture, the difference between them contained the sky net. This is impossible. Chen Xuanzong shouted out, and the 6 shadow moons in his hand attacked towards Yihua once again. Yihua once again took out the cigarette, but that was about to be completely smoked and slowly blocked it. Then he said, Qinya is mine for her entire life, and only I am able to enjoy her body. As for you, you don't even have the qualifications to dream about it. Qinya naturally heard Yihua's words, and she rolled her eyes at her husband. Men just love to use such things to show off their abilities. Chen Xuanzong was stimulated, and his hand speed became even faster. The afterimages of the spear were like afterimages, And the cigarette but in Yi Hua's hand was the same as well. Bang! Yi Hua suddenly grabbed onto the tip of the spear, then raised his leg and kicked Chen Xuanzong. Chen Xuanzong's entire body was sent flying. This was simply a one-sided battle. Yi Hua only gave Chen Xuanzong enough time to smoke a single cigarette. Now that the cigarette was finished, this Chen Xuanzong should die. Yi Hua held onto Chen Xuanzong's weapon and slowly walked towards Chen Xuanzong. As for Chen Xuanzong, he was actually half crippled by Yi Hua's kick. All of his internal organs were displaced, and even his spiritual energy was scattered by the kick. Chen Xuanzong, who was lying on the ground, couldn't move at all. I didn't expect that I wouldn't even be able to withstand a single kick from my opponent. When did this Long Outyin become so powerful? Yi Hua turned his head and looked towards Qinya, who was at the side, then persuaded her softly. Qinya, you know me. I have liked you since I was young, and even now, my feelings for you have never changed. Everything I do is for us to have a good future together. Qinya carried her son and slowly turned around. She didn't want to see this scene. When Chen Xuanzong saw that Qinya's back was facing him, he laughed lightly. I didn't expect that even after I transmigrated to this world, I still couldn't obtain Qinya's heart. The heavens are so unfair. Yi Hua lowered his head and looked towards Chen Xuanzong, then said faintly, Chen Xuanzong, if you have a next life, remember this. My woman isn't someone you can think about. Humph. I, Chen Xuanzong, won't beat around the bush. I just like your wife. This sentence indeed angered Yi Hua, and when Chen Xuanzong saw Yi Hua's expression changing, he laughed out loud. In this fucking life, my next life, and the life after that, I will always like your wife. Yi Hua's face turned gloomy, and the 6 shadow moons in his hand pierced towards Chen Xuanzong's heart. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.